like I'm in a dream. I haven't woken up yet. Hopefully this dream never stops.
Good morning, SMITE fans, and welcome back to the SMITE Pro League and the Road to Worlds phase, kicking off here now on day one and week one of that Road to Worlds. I'm J-Mac. I got Charlie joining me here on the desk as we get ready to kick off the next round of the SMITE Pro League, and all these players now in full force as we start making our way towards the World Championship. Sure to be a hot start for this phase, and we can go ahead and take a look at the schedule for this weekend so you can see all the matchups that we have for you for week number one. Warriors and Ravens will be our first matchup of the day, followed by the Dragons and the Leviathans. Then tomorrow we got the Warriors back against the Hounds, Gladiators, and the Dragons for our Saturday. And then on Sunday we got the Ravens Kings and Leviathans and Styx Ferrymen. That will be week number one of our Road to Worlds. But as mentioned, all kicking it off today with the Oni Warriors and the Highland Ravens. And Charlie, it wouldn't be an SPL phase. It wouldn't be a break between small events of SPL without some kind of roster change-ups here. The big one that we'll probably be hitting on a little bit today, at least, is going to be this Highland Ravens team, new member for their roster. Barracuda out, Zapman now in for the team. We'll have to see how the Ravens can now test against the Oni Warriors, the winning team for that divisional kickoff tournament just a couple of weeks ago. Now here for our first match.
I mean, I just want to highlight again, SPL is back, right?
Yes.
The Road to Worlds is in full swing. That is something that we have been waiting for. We've been anticipating for such a long time. We've just been sitting by saying, like, we need more SPL now that it's finally here. Couldn't be more excited, and what a matchup we have just to kick things off.
Yeah, I think everybody's excited that not only the SPL is back, but now we're in that Road to Worlds, so now it's everybody really bunkering down, locking in those final potential rosters as we move forward throughout the remainder of this phase and kind of start popping our way out there. But kind of talking about these two teams, and I think kind of, as I mentioned, probably the most important topic, at least for this Highland Ravens team, is their new roster change. If you missed out on what happened, well, just Wednesday, I believe it was, we put out the announcement that it's now Zapman in on the duo lane for the hunter of this team, Barracuda, no longer a member of this Highland Ravens team. So, well, let's see how the three-time can now adapt to his new team.
Three-time, man. He's back. That's actually crazy. I'm not going to say shocked when I saw the drop. I know the Leviathans in particular weren't performing as well as they would like, and they needed a change-up, but to see this change, right, it seems like it came out of nowhere. The Ravens, I guess, were not happy with the performance they were having. I saw some of the explanation on Twitter basically saying, you know, whether or not they thought Bear was the biggest issue. I guess maybe we'll get to see if we do get to talk to some of these guys. However, Zap was the change-up they decided on, and I think it'll definitely bring a completely different dynamic to their team play, right? I mean, Zap is, above all else, a leader on the battleground. He has always been very vocal about how he wants to play the game, how he thinks the game should be played. And is that something that the Ravens really needed, right? They've got Hurriwind already, they've got Screammmmm. Those are two guys that are already very vocal. I'm curious how he's going to mesh with this squad, whether there's going to be a bit of a... I don't know if it's going to be the honeymoon period where it's all things are good, or if it's a bit of growing pains. We'll have to see about that. But all the while, should be an interesting one, no doubt.
Yeah, one of the things that's always mentioned about Zapman in particular, whenever he joins into a roster, or whenever he finds that squad that he works really well with, is always his communications in-game, but also in the picks and bans. I mean, we look back to, I believe it was the Leviathans versus the Titans all the way back in Season 8 of Worlds. A lot of what we were getting insight-wise as far as Zapman was concerned, maybe it wasn't necessarily his performance on the field. It was kind of he got to sit back a little bit more, allow the team to get that farm up, become that late-game hunter. But he was the guy that was recentering the team, saying, guys, don't get too excited. It's just game number one. Or guys, we just got a couple of kills. Let's get focus up. Let's move on to our next little battle we need to do. Find the next objective, whether it may be. So maybe we'll see if some of that Zapman kind of plays into this Highland Ravens team, if he's the one kind of refocusing the squad up. But he's got quite a lot of talent around him. And speaking of talent around him, in his immediate lane is Hurriwind, the support for the team. And we got him standing by for our pregame interview.
That's right. We've got Hurry standing by, and Hurry, I know we were actually talking about it because you said you hadn't watched it, but calling you out. I don't know why. That's the energy I guess I'm bringing this morning. Scream then sat down with Hazer. I recommend it if you have like 30 minutes today, just go listen to that. But I just kind of want to hear like your thoughts, the change, especially because it's going to be affecting the duo lane, bringing in Zap, Barra out. How does it feel for you and the team?
I mean, ultimately, it feels good. I think a lot of people kind of nailed it. They said he's like a side grade, but it's not really that simple, right? They play different ways, and Zap brings something different to the team, and that's something that we felt like we needed. So, like, quite simply, that's essentially like why it happened, like you said. Yeah. I would go watch the longer interviews if you want more insight into it. I'm not going to be able to do it in this short interview, but yeah, Zap brings the stuff that we thought we needed, and so far in practice, it's been working out.
I do kind of want to know, because I know like Zap has always been like talked about as like very vocal, right? And good ways, bad ways, however you want to affect that. Like, are there too many cooks in the kitchen when it comes to shot calling, or has like the comms thing been like really smooth transition?
Right, so that's kind of the misconception. We had a lot of voices on the team, but we didn't have anyone to unify us. And Zap kind of brings a level of respect from everybody that lets us be on the same page. And that's something we lacked before. But when Zap says something, everyone really listens. And before, it was kind of, I don't know, when someone would call something. We had a lot of people calling stuff, but now Zap is kind of our center point, and it's really helped us a lot.
Something that's more like decisive, I guess, and that's what we've seen find a lot of success in the past as well. Knowing immediately, though, that your first matchup is against the Warriors, who just did well at kickoff. They did incredibly well during Phase 1. They brought in Genetics, maybe to also be a little bit of a unifying voice. What do you think about the matchup, especially so hot off a roster change?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good test for us. I'm happy we're playing, debatably the best team in the league right now, right off the bat. Obviously, they've got stuff to prove, too, with a similar kind of roster change situation. Maybe unneeded in some people's eyes, but we're kind of both here to prove ourselves today, and it's a best of 5, so it should be a lot of SMITE to kind of test drive both of our teams.
It's going to be a lot of fun, and it both happens to be in the duo lane, which is that's just a weird coincidence overall. But thanks, man, for the time. Good luck in your games, and we'll go back to the desk to bring us in.
So it does sound like it's kind of a lot of what we were talking about with Zapman and his past teams of being able to really unify the team, really be able to kind of be that voice and kind of be that recentering for the teams whenever it comes to comms. Yes, there might be a lot of voice out there, but you got to have the one who's ready to say yes or no to a decision out there. So we'll see maybe if Zapman's able to bring that here for the Highland Ravens up against the Oni Warriors for their matchup there. And I think it was an important one to also mention that they are up against the Oni Warriors, the team that did just win the kickoff, who also made a roster change right before the event. Next to take a brand new look at our head-to-head matchup here between these two.
I mean,
looking down immediately, I see that the oldest person on the Oni Warriors is like the middle ground for most of the Ravens.
I mean, just think about when Zap was playing in the league, Pegon was 9 years old. When Zap was gracing the battlegrounds for the first time, Pegon was learning about the alphabet.
He was learning the multiplication
Yeah, exactly.
table.
He was learning how to do long division. That's crazy. And then, hey, that's that level of respect that Hurriwind was talking about. That's still important, right? You have to think about the fact that, you lose an old head like Barracuda who's been around for such a long time, knows the meta, knows exactly how he wants to play the game. You need someone with that level of tenure, that level of respect to try and fill that slot. And I guess that's what the Highland Ravens found here with Zap. Sounds like Hurriwind has been enjoying, I guess the whole team has been enjoying that level of team presence that Zap can bring. But you highlight yourself, the young guns on the right side of your screen. They've been red hot for quite some time, dropping a few sets here and there. But with the setup changing in, adding Genetics to the roster, man, they've been looking clean.
Yeah, I think that was the big thing with the Oni Warriors that we kind of had the question mark of them coming in was, how is Genetics going to now adapt into this roster? Are the players of the Oni Warriors going to kind of buckle down a little bit more, stop playing more so of the W key, we're just going to pick 5 gods that dominate the lane and just run it down? Or are we going to see maybe more of the actual group up kind of team play style of dynamic come to the Oni Warriors? And I think we got a little bit of both of that during the kickoff, but now we get into the official phase, the full season for these guys, to kind of see how much growth, how much change really comes from this roster. Because for kickoff, it's kind of a one-time thing. You can kind of just go all out for one weekend. You're not really showing too much. It was also, a brand new meta at the time. We only had, 1, maybe 2 weeks at that point to kind of play on the new season. Now with the season celebration, almost a full patch in, we can see kind of some of the way that the meta has shifted and see how some of these players have adapted to that new style.
And that's important, right? Because I think shifting metas is something that all of these teams have talked about, and whether or not they can adapt quickly or not. Sometimes there's the teams that are, they look really strong, and there's a bit of a small patch, the meta shifts up. Some gods that they were really strong with are no longer in the meta, And those teams look so much worse, right? How quickly can you adapt? The Oni Warriors have always been on the top of that, in the forefront of that conversation, usually able to adapt quite quickly. The Highland Ravens, in my opinion, they sort of play to their own game style. Not always saying, hey, you know, these are the top 3 guys in the meta, we're going to try and grab those as quickly as possible. Sometimes they say, Ben's feeling Outwash today, you know, we're going to try and play around that. Ben's feeling Zeus, you know, he hasn't played those picks for a while. But point being, there are some things that we should probably look for picks and bans wise that I wouldn't be surprised if the Highland Ravens try and focus out.
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing a whole shift up from the previous season up until this one. We'll have to see how that all shakes up once more in the picks and bans for game number 1 as the SPL kicks back off with the Highland Ravens and the Oni Warriors. Immediately for me, Charlie, kind of going back to a lot of what was very popular during the kickoff lane. We saw a lot of Raijin bans kind of make its way as far as mid lane is concerned. Jormungandr Sun Wukong kind of dominated the solo lane picks and bans along with Amaterasu. Pele was probably the standout for the jungle. So I wonder how much of that now translate into this matchup. How many of those gods still kind of hold that relevancy? You know, we've had some small balance changes since then to kind of hit some of the maybe overstaying style, you know, characters, the ones who are really dominating in those first couple of weeks. But as far as immediate bans go, Camazotz and Ares for the Oni Warriors. Highland Ravens will take away Thoth and Odin, surprisingly, to pop through. But maybe given the style of play that SOT had during kickoff, maybe it's not so surprising that we see the Odin banned away.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the mid lane matchup that has always been an issue for this Ravens squad up against the Warriors. Pegon has gotten the better end of Venenu. I'm not going to say every single time, but close to it. And Thoth was one of those picks that was just an absolute menace in the mid lane. So taking that away, smart call. Add the Odin to the mix makes sense to me. If you watch that tournament, you know exactly why that ban's going to come through. And if you've been watching Haddix's stream, you know why this Amaterasu pick is coming through. It's been pretty disgusting. The Vital Amplifier, throw in a kin size if you feel tanky enough, or just go straight defense and solo out carries. This Ama pick was a bit slept on, and now has been looking real strong in solo.
In fact, I think if we kind of go back and look at performance for some of the gods, Ama was one of the better performing gods for the solo lane. 9 wins, 2 losses in the games that she played up, at least in the kickoff tournament. So one of the best performing compared to, I mean, we talked about Sun Wukong and Jormungandr were some of the highest pick ones, but they were doing a whole lot of losing comparatively. Opposite side, though, Oni Warriors pick up one of the stronger performing junglers in Pele, and then Yemoja, which has just been a safe go-to pick for the support role for pretty much ever since Yemoja's inception. Obviously, over time has been tuned down to an extent, but still seems to hold quite a high relevancy here for these support players, Trelly.
Yeah, this is already a scary top 2. I mean, you talked about Pele running the meta, running the jungle. Definitely tend to agree. And then also getting Genetics' hands on Yemoja is a scary look, whereas the Highland Ravens taking a bit of a different approach. The Khepri is certainly a pick that can be extremely impactful in the right situation, in the right matchup, especially when you're up against someone like Pele, who has decent poke, but really the Volcanic Lightning is that all-in, right? If you're using that ability, you're essentially committing to that team fight, and if that happens and it just gets Scarab Blessing, you're going to lose a lot of that presence. So could be a good pick into the Pele specifically. The only issue is that Khepri can get picked himself, right? Sometimes that level of tankiness that Khepri has isn't enough to get him out of trouble. He could just be left alone. Throw a Freya into the mix, and you will not be tanky late game. If this Freya is able to get 6 slotted, just absolutely shredding through.
2 magical hunters that saw a decent bit of play and or bans over during the kickoff, Olorun and Freya. Now both taken off, or now both picked up, I should say, here for the Highland Ravens and the Oni Warriors, respectively. So Khepri Olorun is a duo lane. Decent bit of pressure that can come from there, especially with that Olorun. Yemoja Freya, maybe not quite as much as far as that lane is concerned. You already have a Pele to maybe try and dive towards this Olorun, still waiting on what Scream might go for towards the Ravens. Knowing that you have Yemoja Freya as a lane to kind of go up against, what kind of at least stands out to you, Charlie, is something potential that Scream can maybe try and grab up here to make his life a little bit easier up against the Oni Warriors?
Well, that is the question, right? Because you need dive regardless on both of these squads. If you think about magical ADCs, and in particular Freya and Olorun's big weaknesses, once you use that ultimate, whether that be Sanctified Field or Valkyrie's Discretion, your safety is essentially gone. You're pretty much a sitting duck if any ganks roll through. So what do most people want? CC immunity and just full-on dive when dealing with picks like that. Something like Robin always comes to mind. Sure, not the strongest pick in the jungle at the moment. I think definitely leans more towards solo, but having that level of, hey, I'm just going to Mystic Rush into the backline. If you drop Sanctified Field, I still have my overhead kick to immune that slow, and vice versa. I think that's what that style of play at the very least Scream should probably be looking towards. With the Rat Band, that does take a bit of that global presence away, you know, CC immunity like I was talking about, to try and get to Freya, try and force that ultimate. But I think there's still plenty of high pressure junglers that Scream could look to. And because in particular it's Scream, we can't even count out things like, you know, the mage jungles that he would also go to. Kind of scary with an Olorun in the duo lane, but still, he is not one to stray away from the off-meta picks as well.
Well, if you were watching a Ravens set during the kickoff, which they only had the one for themselves, this is exactly the two picks that Scream was going towards. The Camazotz and the Ratatoskr, both of those now banned away by the Oni Warriors along with an Artemis. We kind of saw rise up seemingly out of nowhere. Over in the dual lane, had two different build style of paths. You could either go the shred and or crit style build, or we also even saw the more ability style of Artemis kind of pop up, Bluestone, Transcendence, things like that. But won't see that this game along with the Raijin and Set. And then the Oni Warriors are going to lock Haddix in to potentially be going over into that side lane over towards SOT. What's kind of your thoughts on Haddix right now? It feels like it's been a while since we've seen Haddix really be the meta of the solo laner. Feels like we're getting a little bit tankier over towards that side, but Haddix versus Amaterasu, how do you kind of feel about that matchup, and then this Haddix pick for the Warriors?
That seems like a sleeper matchup to me. I don't imagine there's much fighting going on between Ama and Haddix. It's probably, hey, I'm going to pop shield out of the wave, one-shot it, Haddix is going to walk up, Blight, Devour Souls, leave. Like, I don't think there's much scrapping going on unless junglers get involved. I was going to say, because we see that Pele locked in, and follow that up with Haddix Freya, opens the door for a physical mid laner. We know Pegon's got plenty of assassins he likes to go to. There's some hunters that I've seen played in the mid lane as well. Heck, he could even take the Pele into the mid lane. And the Susano that Panitom is still extremely prevalent on could be locked in there in the last slot. There's just a ton of options that, if number one, we don't quite know. The Highland Ravens also have to think about that, and I think they recognized it as well. They said, hey, if Pele goes to mid, that Susano is most certainly going in the jungle. Let's grab it right now, make sure that the Oni Warriors can't get their hands on it. I think that pick actually works out really well for them.
The Ravens end their comp with Susano, taken away from the Warriors, and Martichoras to round things out. So double Hunter, one physical, one magical, and then a Daji to pop up here for the Warriors. Not too many players still playing the Daji right now, maybe not in the greatest spot as of yet. We will see some adjustments come with her. We just had the patch note show just the past couple of days, and seeing her name pop in there is always a scary thing for me. It says, oh man, how many more Dajis am I going to see in my game? Well, Panitom going to get some early practice on the pick. Kind of now round this roster out. But for the Highland Ravens, you know, looking at this comp, you have Daji, Pele, those two are going to dive into the backline consistently. Haddix is going to want to stay in the middle. How good is the Highland Ravens comp against fighting against this more dives-oriented team of the Warriors?
Ooh, it's scary. The Oni Warriors, in my mind, if they're able to do what they want with this composition, which is burn beads onto these, you know, non-CC immune targets, just Khepri, Olorun, and Susano, they only have the Scarab's Blessing to really go with. And then you have Haddix, you have Daji, you have Pele, you've got all this beads burn as well as the follow-up for it. It can be very scary. There's a reason Daji's been out of the meta. Her early game's not the best. It takes her a bit to really get cooking, but if you're given a matchup like this where you have so many different targets to pull beads from, and we already know how Pegon likes to play this matchup. He likes to also make those big rotations as well. Sometimes Panitom goes left, Pegon goes right? They're able to split up in both gank effectively when they have double assassin like this. It's difficult for the Highland Ravens to try and fight in. I'm looking at Olorun and Marty in particular, and those are two gods that they don't want to fight early. They want to sit back and farm, get a Soul Eater stacked up, get some crit online for the Olorun, some ability power, that sort of thing. It's going to be a slow-paced game for the Highland Ravens trying to get to late, whereas as far as I'm concerned, the Oni Warriors should be able to run early game with relative ease as long as they don't throw an early first blood.
And then I think kind of maybe piggybacking off that, do the Ravens have the tools to be able to get to the early game? Because Amaterasu, kind of a slow god, maybe with Gooseberries makes it a little bit easier in the soul lane once you can kind of get that stacked up. But Khepri, he's not going to add too much to the team. It's mostly single target CC in that regard. Is there enough for the Ravens in their own kits and their own picks here to try and hold off the early game to get them to that late game?
I'm not going to say they don't have it, because there's always an option of just playing slow. It just seems like the Highland Ravens didn't pick much pressure at all, which against a team like the Oni Warriors can be scary. I mean, again, Olorun and Khepri, they've got decent wave clear. They can get pressure, but the issue with Olorun and Khepri is how far are you stepping up in that wave, and then a jungler just comes over and says, hey, I was going for shield buff, but you guys cleared so fast, I just have a free gank opportunity, right? So you don't want to put yourself out of position like that. It's scary stuff. The Highland Ravens are clearly slanting for late game and just hoping they get there, whereas we already know, the Oni Warriors, they have one play style, and it's go.
Well, we'll see if the Oni Warriors hold that playstyle here in game number 1. It's the Highland Ravens and the Oni Warriors kicking off the Road to Worlds for the SPL. Let's throw it to our casters, Gore and Inbound.
Thanks so much, J-Mac and Trelly. That's right, it's Gore, and it is Inbound. As we jump in, Inbound, making it up into the SPL. In a different way this time, I guess, right?
Yeah, different way, for sure. Definitely behind the scenes a little bit more instead of playing. But
which one do you prefer? And it won't hurt my feelings if you say playing, I promise.
I'm just a competitive person, so for now I'll say
So you just
playing.
want to be better than Mifflin.
Yeah, exactly.
You've
I just
got
gotta
like a
be
goal.
smarter than Miff, and then I'm good.
Well, hey, you know what? I'm happy to have you here. I'm sure everybody else is. It's been fun hanging around with you. It's always fun to converse with you. And also, it's really interesting. If you didn't watch Kickoff a couple weeks ago, there's a lot that changed in the game since then. The Twitch poll leaning over towards the Warriors. And I know you had actually discussed at least a little bit, and we heard it on the desk, being a little more early-oriented for the Warriors. You had said, like, man, you picked Khepri into the Yemoja. Like, a couple of things that kind of struck you as odd that the Ravens brought in to what the Warriors had already drafted.
Yeah, the Khepri pick out when they pick something like Yemoja Pele, it just gives a big opportunity to kill this Yemoja, to kill the Khepri a lot. A lot of this game is going to be coming down to kind of the Khepri versus dodgy matchup. It might not be something you really think of all the time, but I mean, Khepri's going to get focused out a lot of these picks and how these games are going to be playing. It's going to be looking at the Khepri. He has no beads. He opted for the shell. A lot of self ults for this Khepri, or he's going to be the one dying, and they're hoping for like a 4-for-1, and Khepri's going to be that one death. The one thing that they do have that Trelly also did highlight was this dual lane should be in favor of the Khepri Olorun. It's just what Olorun does. He kind of dominates lane until level 5, but he is very easy to gank. Also something Trelly highlighted. So it's kind of how far do you want to push up? Do you want to push up this far? The jungler could rotate at any point. Shield camp spawns at a minute and a half. A lot of interesting stuff.
Especially when you start to factor in, because, I mean, you mentioned the jungler, right? Panitom, you go back, what was it, like a year ago? And Daji was just a win condition. If it was locked in, you won the game. And Panitom was a really, really big factor behind that. So that feels like it's going to be dangerous. But specifically when you talk about the fact that there's no beads for the Khepri, and even with Olorun, actually, his beads are down right now. And so, if I'm Panitom, I'm starting to think that it's looking like a feast over in the left lane.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Panitom's going to play for 5. As soon as he hits 5, he's going to rotate and look for a play, probably in duo. The cool thing for Panitom this game is he has so many targets that he can try to kill. The Amma target is not that hard in a Hades matchup where, for the most part, it's going to be farming, but Hades does poke her out pretty well.
Yeah.
And then he can visit duo. Scream is always going to have to be playing super safe on the Susano. He actually opted for the beads. A Susano that does not have blink until 12 means, how are these Highland Ravens even going to be starting fights before that moment? There is really nothing that they have other than maybe a Khepri pull, which is just I'm hoping. Really good pull out, actually. Genetics, fine. Does use his 3, gets out. But good little setup for the gank right there. Level 2 in duo for both Genetics and Net. Good play.
Kind of showcases maybe what he has to work with. And much to your point, the pressure Hades can put on Haddix. Oh, barely manages, but manages nonetheless to get onto the tier 1 tower and stay alive. But back to specifically Scream, which was to showcase what you had just said, where if you don't have Blink, what do? And unfortunately for him, it was go in, get a good pull, you had called it, but then have to use your beads and watch as the Warriors retreat anyway.
Yeah, he also had to use his ability to get in. He 3'd to get in, then pulled, and then didn't have as much damage out.
Yeah.
So that damage is going to be dropping a little bit because he does have to use one of his abilities to get in. Also, we just saw that solo lane. This Hades will be bullying the Amma in the early portion of this game. Also, Sod has about 2 points. He plays for this early game, and then he also plays for late game. He doesn't really care too much for the mid game. And this should be pretty much in Hades' control with how much secure and just area control he has. And just free, just like that.
Yeah. And you know what? Bully, that's about as bully as you can get, right? Aggressive into the blue buff to steal it away. Maybe even something coming on. Pegon's rotating in. He's going to get aggressive here. Volcanic Lightning to close the gap. Zapman's the target. A couple of autos is all you need one more hit. Should do it in Pegon. First blood to the Warriors.
Yeah, through the shell there too. They ended up securing the purple buff, but in trade for that, Hurry picked up the purple buff, and now they're going to be losing their own one, unless... What a steal.
Wow.
What a steal by Hurry. 24 damage, and he just took that. Still, shield camp, you got first blood, and this is one thing you don't want. A Pegon Pele that's going to be in a lead.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable, especially, you know, I was even going to ask you about, like, Warriors double assassin. Like, we've seen it for a lot of mid laners. It's not something like, let's say, Venenu, as an example, is foreign to, but Pegon loves it. And anytime he can, if you show him that there's an assassin that can be played in mid, Pegon's going to play it, and it's unfortunate for any team against him. It's going to look really good every single time. That just seems to be the case here. Scream gets aggressive over on left, uses the ult on Netrioid, and forces the beads so the knockup doesn't connect. Shots are going to be there, but the Riptide gets some distance. One more hit is all you need, but Netrioid just can't get away. Med from Genetics, perfectly timed to get the healing out there. Panitom rotated in. I don't think he's going to be getting too aggressive here. That's just, again, a small victory ripped away from the Ravens.
Yeah, I think the Ravens kind of need that one. They're down about a K, only 4 minutes into this game. Pegon actually uses his blink. You know, he tried to find Venenu there. He knows Venenu doesn't have that strong spike of the full trans yet, so he just looks for a little poke trade. Unfortunately, does not find it. Uses the blink, but Venenu does not want to fight. Venenu's not going to want to fight. Venenu probably wants his full trans and full soul eater before he looks for anything in this matchup. And then in the late game, I think Venenu is going to be kind of this mid-game piece that the Ravens are going to need to kind of transition to that late game. Marty did get nerfed recently. He's not doing as much damage, but he's still a lot of damage for this Highland Ravens comp, and without that, they're not going to be able to find too many picks. A lot of survivability on the Warriors. Dodgy can banish herself. Genetics on the Yemoja going to be healing up, shielding a lot. He also has that med. So it's going to be very difficult for the Ravens to find these picks in the 5v5s or 3v3s early.
You had kind of already called it, right? You're going Transcendence super early. Probably not expecting, at least for Venenu, to rotate in. The Warriors, on the other side, don't seem to care. They are saying, oh, you don't want to fight? Cool. We're going into your jungle. Blue buff invade on right. Successful. Matched by a purple buff invade from the Ravens, so at least trading those out. And that was something, you know, we kind of touched on last time, but very specifically, Hurry was able to get the purple buff that they invaded and also secure their own purple buff, despite losing Zapman for first blood. And sometimes when you're, like you said, 1,000 gold down, you look for those silver linings.
Exactly. Also, with how the Ravens are playing this game right now, you can tell they're playing through duo. This Olorun is what they're going to be playing around. Marty's not fighting, like we said. Olo can fight. Olo's actually a pretty solid fighting god early. Once he gets his back off, he gets that telekines, he'll be able to trade a lot harder. He's just not too safe. But that's why they drafted this Khepri. It's still a little risky because you're playing such a hard Khepri matchup. He's so big, every Yemoja ability is guaranteed hitting Khepri as long as it's casted on his side of the map. That's the tough thing. But this Khepri's actually ahead. He got the double purple buffs, and then he also got to solo farm that wave that Zap died on. This is not a bad dual lane right now for the Ravens. Freya does win the matchup though when it rotates out, when the supports rotate out and it's a 1v1, unless the Olo gets far enough ahead.
Well, Genetics might get bullied here. Sanctified Fields, and then a great pull from Scream. Make sure he can't escape the damage. You gotta go for the dive here. River's Rebuke gets dropped. It's going to be enough to keep him going. Somehow still alive. Genetics in the back and now getting aggressive, forcing an ult out of Hurry, but it's not going to be enough. The ult from Net, you need one more hit, and Pegon's there to provide. The damage from the Warriors is too good. They come to the duo and they clean up all three. Well played, and a 4-0 lead.
The Ravens extended a little bit too much there. They got into that tier 1. They almost killed Genetics, but they took too many tower shots. Genetics got his med off. He got a really nice ult, and just as his ult was about to end, Freya came by, whooped the Susano into tower. Scream was sitting under tower for a little bit, and then a good rotation. And that comes back to Pegon on this Pele wants to rotate. He wants to walk around the map and fight, and this Marty can't do that. If he's caught in the jungle, the Pele can kind of just run him down and catch him out.
3-0-1. Pegon's a problem right now.
Pegon is a problem.
Warrior's going to have to figure that out. There was so much that I was starting to think about. And I was like, okay, you know what, where do we go? Because, like, for people who didn't watch, there's the tiki masks around the buffs that bring in an interesting point. We're still going to be talking about the beacon, but that's still 4 minutes away. The Warriors have been super active, and that's not changing anytime soon. Panitom and Netrioid catch out Zap in the left side jungle around the shield buff. And Genetics, Ishtar doesn't have anything he can do about it. Inbound, there's nothing that the Warriors are worried about here.
Pegon actually...
Oh my god, they don't care!
Yeah, he forces out the ult there for basically free. I mean, he's going to take a little bit of poke, but he just goes back to mid, even the screen buff, and he just heals up. I mean, this game is getting out of control for the Ravens. They had one lane they could play through. Zap has now died 3 times. This Dodgy is going to have a field day on this entire backline. It wasn't even a bad early portion of that game, but they just chased a little bit too hard in a duo. They didn't get that kill on Genetics, and now they are down 3k gold at 8 minutes. And there's not really a lane you can play, like we talked about early. There's not a lane you can play through anymore. This Hades is going to be bullying out this Ama. She built this Oni, so she's not going to be, doing any sorts of damage until late. So it's a tough spot for this Ravens team to be in. They're going to have to look for maybe an objective steal, split the map a little bit. Tough spot to be in.
Yeah, look, anytime objective steal is on the mind as a play that you have to make, and the timer says it's 9 minutes, you're not in the best spot. And even right there, I mean, you'd kind of held your hand out, but Scream just present in mid lane for 2 seconds outside of the tower, eats 3/4 of his health bar before getting forced to fall back. And so it doesn't lead to any crazy invades, but that's what the Warriors are about right now. It's 5-0. We're starting to get up to 10 minutes, and so I'm starting to think, like, Gold Furies for the Warriors. I mean, Beacon's going to be coming up in a few minutes. Like, where do they go when you have this much of a lead?
So this Warriors team does have a really good lead right now, but they're not really great at killing objectives. Freya's not one of the best Gold Fury killers. They have a double assassin comp. They don't really have great secure. But, I mean, neither do the Ravens, so if they can bully out a little bit, they have enough sustain where they can just kind of walk at it. It'll just take them a little bit of time. I expect the Ravens to give up the beacon. Do not contest the beacon. You're down too much. I mean, at this point, it really is just either you're giving it up or you're maybe hoping Scream can get a steal onto the objectives, onto the Gold Furies, Pyros, and stuff like that. But this is just a huge lead. You're talking about almost an item everywhere.
Massive lead, and it might just get a little bit bigger. Fury accidentally pulled. Hurry is the target, even with a little bit of damage. Maybe they were looking potentially to try and bait out Vin as well in mid, but it didn't seem to quite get the bite the Warriors wanted, so no kills over there. Instead, it's going to be on right. Panitom has the ult. He's not going to use it here. Scream's half health. And they've got a massive level lead. 2 up in the jungle. Poor Zapman just can't seem to catch a break over here. He's going for Genetics with Net. Couple of autos picks that one up on the Powwow. Forcing the beads out of Scream is Panitom now. Getting aggressive on the Haddix. They're over at the right side blue buff. Got Venenu rotating in. He's going to have a decent amount of damage. This is exactly the mid game you were starting to talk about, and the 3v2 doesn't look great. But if they can keep him occupied, Pegon's rotated in, blink forward, Volcanic Lightning. But that's going to be too much of a gap to try and make up for. Pegon's low. They actually might be in a little bit of trouble here. No, it's Scream! It's all a bait from the Warriors. They pull him in, and they look for a little bit more. No way, SoloOrTroll at 11 minutes, diving the tier 2, kills off Finn, and is now going for the ult. They're going to continue bullying Haddix. It's catastrophe. They're the Ravens, 9-0. The Warriors just can't seem to do any wrong.
Every lane they go to, they're just winning the 2v2, the 1v1, or the 3v3. At this point, the Ravens are even getting bullied out of their own jungle. We are talking nearly 7,000 gold pre-beacon spawn. The beacon has not even spawned yet. That is another objective that the Warriors are going to be able to get. I mean, at this point, you're on damage control. You are just trying to live this game as long as possible. And if I'm the Ravens, this is not even a point where you can farm out anymore. You have to look for trades. Even 2-for-1, 3-for-1 trades. Anyone on this Warriors team is worth at least 2 people on the Ravens team.
Which, you get, like, I mean, you're saying it here. Get a kill, and you're going to skyrocket in terms of experience. Bounties, I mean, Pegon, massive, massive target on his back. But, man, I got to add, like, from my perspective, 8,000 gold, 12 minutes in. You just lost the beacon. You probably can't even step up to this fear. I mean, you had even highlighted why the Warriors are a bad objective team, and it still feels like you can't step up to them. Although that might not stop Hurry from trying. The Gold Fury does get pulled from the Warriors. It's half health as of right now. Ravens going to show up. Pegon gets aggressive. Scream goes in, has the ult on him. Ravens take the Gold Fury. They needed that win. They needed something to go their way, and they need to get out. Scream has gone north on the map. Zap uses the ult to disengage, running south. Scream It's just going to go to the tower here to make sure that things don't go wrong and don't add another kill over to the Warriors.
I mean, you got to look at the positives there. They only lost Scream. He died to tower. They got the Gold Fury. So that 9K gold lead that was just 30 seconds ago is down to 7K. Those little wins, they'll add up, but still, 7K is a mountain to come back from.
Like 2 more of those, though, and you're set.
Yeah, 2, 3.
Yeah, just steal more objectives. It's that easy. Well, that's the thing I was going to say, especially if that Gold Fury goes the way of the Warriors. It feels like you're unfortunately, and really early in the game, maybe starting to think, okay, guys, what went wrong with this draft, and how do we fix it in Game 2? Because it feels like you are getting blocked out. That Fury steal, like you said, while it's not the best case scenario, it at least keeps you in this game and keeps things alive for a Game 1 without having to look towards the future yet.
Yeah, I think it's those small victories that they kind of keep your like hope up, where it's like,
yeah,
you know, we stole this one. Well, who says we can't steal the next one? Maybe the one after that one. But I mean, it is still 7K gold lead. The Warriors are going to be dominating the Ravens jungle. The Ravens are going to have a hard time even walking towards their red buffs, their speed buffs, their purple buffs. I wouldn't be surprised, because this is what the Warriors do. They will take every buff on the map. It does not matter if it's the speed buff and you're coming out of base. They will be at that speed buff, and they'll be looking to fight almost anywhere they can.
It's funny you said that, because right after you mentioned that, first off, they're on the Pyromancer now. It's going to be an easy pickup for the Warriors. But I saw pings immediately on the right side speed buff. And whether that was the Warriors or the Ravens, somebody wants to secure that, and it's got to be dangerous. And honestly, I could see Genetics at this point, because I remember asking him about, like, what was different. You know, do you feel like you can reel this team in? He said no. they still want to hold W. It's just the occasional call that they'll be like, okay, maybe that's too aggressive. And that might have just been one of those that's too aggressive plays. That being said, the team plays aggressively. In fact, the way things have gone, I mean, you had mentioned builds earlier. Looking at it, you're talking tier 3s over tier 2s, and in some cases, if you look in the jungle, not only 3 levels, but a full tier 3 item, not just some upgrades over what Scream has been able to pick up in favor of Panitom, as well as having a second relic online for Genetics where there's none for Hurry.
Yeah, I mean, you look across the board and it's huge differences. I mean, Panitom's running him down in his own jungle. Scream does get out just barely.
But how far out? I guess the appropriate amount. He's on the back of the tier 2 line, and that's going to get him out of there.
And this is actually really good for the Warriors. It doesn't really matter if they are killing. If they can just keep this pressure up and just keep healing up with Genetics, who's, I mean, Yemoja with Med, these are going to be very tough fights to take. And they also have the Hades, so like they can just walk down these tier 2 towers.
Now their objective play around, you know, like a Fire Giant, a Gold Fury. Maybe you're a little nervous because of the secure, but tier 2 towers doesn't seem to have any problems, Pegon. Taking a lot of damage here from Scream. This could be a massive kill for the Ravens. Zap has rotated in. Sanctified Fields just the tail end. No beads right now, just used now for Pegon. The blink still in the combat timer, but he's just going to walk out of there. A lot of commitment from Zap and the rest of the team. Unable to show anything for it. They lose the tier 2 on right as well.
I mean, they needed that one. If they get that pick and then they're allowed to push down middle, that's a shutdown onto Pegon, a tier 1 tower. Unfortunately, just barely. Zap's 1 missed. The ult was just barely out of range too. Pegon gets out. He doesn't really use anything else outside of the beads, and Scream uses beads blink on the other side.
Yeah.
We also have Onk down on Hurry. Again, this Warriors team is in such a good spot as long as nobody dies, because they have so much sustain. They can just walk into the jungle, poke out a little bit. They can even trade ultimates because they're that much stronger, and it is a win for them. As long as they're not dying, they're allowed to heal up, and these fights are going to be very, very hard continuously for the Ravens.
Pegon showing up over in the left. Zap is the target. Knockup not going to be good because of the beads. The Aegis buys some time, but that's about all it does. It is a death nonetheless. And a 10th on the board for the Warriors, 5-0-2. And guess what's up over here? It's the Oni Fury. Inbound, you know, there were a lot of things, like, mentally I was preparing, like, okay, here's, like, you know, new patch stuff to talk about. Of course, next week we're going to have even more to talk about with another new patch that's coming in, a lot of balance changes. The Warriors haven't given us any opportunity. I mean, it has been go since they got first blood, and the Ravens, I mean, at this point, it's questions of how long do they need to hold on to, because we're talking massive level differences, 4 levels in mid, 3 in the jungle, 3 for solo, 2 for the carries here. And so how long do you hold out if you're the Ravens here? How long should you have to at this point just to be able to feel like you can impact the game again?
I mean, it's got to be at least 25 minutes until they can impact the map. And you're going to see a lot of what Zap did there, where it's him pushing up this wave just to try to get this farm as much as possible.
Yeah.
It is way more worth for him to get that wave. It might look bad, him dying for that wave, but he needs farm so bad. His entire team needs farm. And you're going to see Pegon doing this a lot also, where he kind of just walks down sides of the map just to see if somebody's going for that wave. And then if you are, he'll punish you. He'll one-shot you at this point. Pegon nearly has his starter done at 18.5 minutes. He's actually level 20. He might have enough gold. He actually has enough gold. I expect Pegon to back. He'll have 5 full items, including that starter. And yeah, I don't expect the Ravens to be defending anything. They should tell Zap, go down left, push it down as far as you can, and just keep farming. We need you to get farm.
Yeah, and you know what? He just got a tower, so he's doing his job, and he's doing it well. 0-5-0, though. Welcome back to the SBL. This is what the Warriors are saying. And spoken like a true, former teammate of Zapman. A lot of excuses coming out over here. He's 0-5-0. Nothing you can really do about it. And like you said, I mean, you've got 2 assassins on the other side, and you've been bullied since the beginning of the game. Pegon's still looking to do it. Blink not up for another 12 seconds. Is he going to even need it? Sanctified Fields get used. Beads and response damage is there. And it's up to the Pele. The beads don't last forever, but neither do Sanctified Fields. Kill is good. And Pegon puts up a 6th. Scream and Haddix rotate in to try and respond. And is he going to be able to do anything here? No beats, as he just used them. It's going to be a blink forward. The chase down is good, but the damage, oh my god, Pegon! Finally, they shut him down, but he almost killed Scream in the process. Scream, oh my god, puts one up on the Ravens and is counting his lucky stars that he made it out of there alive.
That was insane. I did not expect that much damage out from Pegon, but I mean, he does have a nearly 5-level lead. He's actually 4 levels now because Scream just got that kill. And realistically, Susano's probably one of the better characters to get that shutdown on. Because you need somebody to die, somebody to be able to kill on this Ravens team. And right now, realistically, Susano's the only one. You don't have enough ability or items on Venenu. You don't have enough on Zapman. You're not going to be able to kill that dive. You need Scream to get these kills because you need Scream to be able to kill someone on this Warriors comp.
Well, he got the one. And the Ravens, and of course Ravens fans out there, are really, I'm going to add another one, really hopeful that it's not the only one they're able to pick up. They have to forego the Fire Giant. Warriors pick that one 20.5 in, and it's going to be on all 5. So small, but still powerful buff. And you were even pointing out just now, Zap starting to itemize into a little bit of defense just to try and survive a little longer in some of these fights.
Yeah, I was expecting maybe a Magi's just for the dodgy ults, but he's going for either Spirit's Robe. I'd assume a Spirit's Robe over a Mantle. It's slightly cheaper when you're behind. You need those cheaper items.
Also, who gets Mantle nowadays? I haven't seen it in a while.
Paul. Paul at Worlds would just get it every game.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I expect him to get Spirit's Robe. It's a little bit of a cheaper item than Mantle, even if Mantle's passive might be slightly better for a squishy. Speaking on, Ravens are actually not... They've not fallen as far behind. It's only 8K still. It was 8K a couple minutes ago, and I think that comes back to that kill onto Pegon. That's a huge, you see that little...
Yeah, he's like a Gold Fury in and of himself.
Yeah, actually a huge shutdown for him. Still 8K gold, massive lead for the Warriors. What the Ravens want to do now is they want to slow them as much as possible without giving up a Phoenix. They can give up these towers. They don't care about it, but they want to soft defend them because they don't want this Fire Giant to be 2 minutes left while they walk up to that gold, or to the Phoenix.
Yeah, they need to play maybe a little more aggressively if they do want to buy more time. Unfortunately for them, playing aggressively hasn't gotten them in a particularly good spot up to this point. Tier 2 in left goes down, Tier 2 in mid, just a couple more autos, it's gone away. Fury's up, but do you pressure, I mean, you had mentioned it, you have 2.5 minutes on the Fire Giant, you probably pressure the Phoenixes.
Yeah, I think you pressure the Phoenixes. The one mistake with this Warriors comp that they could fall into right now is they don't have objective Phoenix damage.
Yeah.
This Freya doesn't have her Boombas done yet, and they have 2 Assassins, so they have Poly on Hades. So Poly on Hades is their best actual Phoenix getting potential, and they're 5-man grouped right now.
That is normally, at least with me, planning-wise, Poly on Hades is not like the, you know what, we can take this Phoenix that maybe some teams think it is. River's Rebuke, great to lock things in. Phoenix damage is there. Zap is the target, but he's going to be able to make it out. Did go for that Mantle, by the way, to stay alive. Panitom used the Pal-Out, get some damage out there. Spread. But it's split between the Ravens and the Phoenix from the Warriors. They're still going to step up, though. They've got the capabilities, and they want to get this bird. Minute 42 on the Fire Giant. A little bit of extra damage. Haddix goes in. The Dazzling Offense finds a stun onto SoloOrTroll. But it is rinse and repeat for the Warriors. One after another. Zap now in trouble, but Scarab's Blessing's gonna get some distance, and he gets the res, the proc that's necessary, pulls him right into the fountain. Phoenix goes down, and the Warriors start to back up. Damage is there. The Ravens seem to smell some blood in the water. Where are they gonna go? And more specifically, is Scream gonna be the one to try and get aggressive? Looks like it might just be a little bit of farm. So it's a fall back and a retreat from the Warriors. Successful Phoenix siege on left.
And you see how this Warriors comp is going to kind of go for this. It's going to be, slowly going in and then back up heal. Pegon's actually looking for a pick on Zap.
Man.
Quick. Oh, no relics. Zap is just dead. Pegon just one-shots him.
And nobody
he's
can
gone.
do anything about it either.
And he's gone. 0-7 now for Zap.
Yeah.
Like you were mentioning.
Welcome back to the SPL.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome back. And now at 5v4, you have this Poly Hades here. This is still something you can pressure.
They're going to go ahead and start applying that pressure. Look, Pegon's come back. Pegon's looped around. He's in the base, in the Titan room right now, and maybe looking to pick up Scream. No, Scream makes it out on the right-hand side instead. Pegon plays around the River's Rebuke, looking for the lockdown, finds Haddix, blocks the dash, forces a dazzling offensive again, and that's going to get Haddix right back. Same with Venenu to the fountain, but goal is the goal. And they got the mid Phoenix and that kill onto Zap, so a small pick, and it leads up to an even more open base in favor of the Warriors.
And what I was saying before, he ended up getting picked and left, Zap ended up getting picked and left. That's how this Warriors comp wants to siege. They go in, they poke it down a little bit, they try to bait out as many ults as they can. There was 3 ults down on the Raven side before the Warriors really even committed to that Phoenix. So they were just walking in, baiting, healing up, walking in, hitting it a little bit, baiting, backing up. And it's just so flawless. It was such a good siege by the Warriors. Not even for a second were you worried like, oh, are they overstepping? No, it's just flawless by the Warriors.
And you had to give credit where it's due, because Haddix, Scream, Vin all have really good disengage. Zap kind of got scapegoated into being the guy to die if the Warriors are looking for a pick. And that's where they put it. Look, 7 deaths, 12 kills for the Warriors, so only 5 split everywhere else. Of course, an extra death right there on Scream from when he died to the tower and, and left earlier. But the beacon's going to be coming through. And I want to ask you about this, because this is going to be the 3rd beacon. This is going to spawn the Titans. They're going to go down right because the Ravens have no defense anywhere else and needs to spawn somewhere. But do you like that call to go for the Titan spawns from the Warriors, or do you think they could have potentially ended the game if they had left it alone?
I think they can actually play with the end with this Titan right now. If they go down right now, they have the Phoenixes, or the Titans walking down right side with the Phoenixes. And since they have so much pressure on the map, they can actually kill the enemy's Phoenix and reset it and then walk down with the Titan. And it's going to be with this Fire Giant, because if you're the Ravens, you're not contesting this.
Haddix, okay,
should be fine.
Maybe he's going to be okay. Had his back stopped, and I started stressing. Maybe I should be stressed for him. Panitom's coming around. There's going to be the fear, the ult, and it forces the dazzling offensive. Panitom's getting aggressive.
He does
even
have
beads to knock out and avoid the stun. Haddix has his own beads, can't do anything about it. Powwow used. At this point, you're going to kill the Order Titan at least once right here outside the Phoenix. All 5 of you got Fire Giant, because that's what the team was doing while they were chasing down Haddix. And you're going to have, as you had mentioned, not only your minion wave, but your Titan coming in. Pegon bites off more than he can chew, tries to fight 3, ends up getting taken down. Scream gets back to the base, Sanctified fields around the Phoenix. And now in a 4v5, that's a huge shutdown kill again onto Pegon, just to save your lives and give you a chance at the defense. But inbound, it doesn't seem to be doing anything. The Phoenix is still falling. Panitom gets absolutely melted between Scream and Vin. Vin has to fall back. Phoenix goes down. Titans still around the tier 1 now on the Ravens side. So the Warriors have a little bit of waiting to do to try and get everybody here. Zapman's the target for Sot. He's going to find him, gets a double, and suddenly the siege isn't as over as I thought. The Warriors surge forward. They kill off 3. Haddix is respawn. He's going to do his best, but the Titan's walking its way down right. Health bars are low. Can they do this with the Titan, or is it too much?
It's going to be a risky call, but I think there's pressure here just to make sure left goes down. Like, this Titan is going to take so long to kill. Left is going to be pushing in, mid's going to be pushing in. They get 1 pick onto Venenu here, and it should just be game.
Well, they've got the pick. Do they have the game? Haddix has to walk back, and it has been an onslaught from the Warriors in game 1. Genetics goes down, but so does the Order Titan. Warriors strike first, and the Ravens maybe sweating a little bit after the pressure from game 1.
Yeah, I don't know. All around, they only had one lane to play through, and as soon as that lane just goes the opposite way they want it to, they have nothing to play through. I really think the Warriors ended up baiting Scream into that Susano pick. That was not an easy Susano game. I think the Warriors just controlled P's and B's, and they just completely outdrafted, in my opinion.
I mean, you had said it in the early. You were like, you know what? You're playing through this duo lane, and the Warriors just said, all right, bet. like we're going to step
be
over
playing
here.
through this duo lane now.
It's our duo lane. Heck, good luck. Poor Zap. Was that the 8th, I think? Maybe 9? I can't remember. I lost count after a while. That's why the game has to do it for us. It's just so much pressure over on left in early, and it spiraled out of control. And when we were talking about 4,000, 3,000 at like 8 minutes, that gives you like the real tone setter, I think, for the Warriors. Because towards the end, it was still, 10, 12, the normal amount of gap. And honestly, if that one steal doesn't go the Ravens' way, maybe we're having a completely different conversation. But it's game 1 to the Warriors, and it's a very decided game 1 at that. We'll find out if they can keep it up, or the Ravens can show us what this roster swap has to offer right after this.
You up, you break me down, tear everything apart. I give you all I can, but then you go and break my heart. But this ain't true love, boo. But this ain't true love, this thing right here, so I'm gonna leave you. Can be with someone who doesn't care. You're running and running and running and running away from my problems. So here we stand on the edge tonight. There's no turning back now. I've been weak for 3 weeks. I can't think straight, no, I can't eat. I cry and I cry and I cry and I cry. The way I cry, it's time to say goodbye. Oh, this is what love do. I'm tired, this is how you lose. My trust for you, if only you knew. How much I've tried, what love do. I've had enough. Treat you like you my everything, but you just shoot me down. 'Cause I am just your anything. You throw my heart around. This ain't true love, boo. But this ain't true love, this thing right here, so I'm gonna leave you. Can be with someone who doesn't care. You've been lying and lying and lying and lying to me like forever. I can't believe that I watched it. I was too blind to see what you did behind my back. So well hidden that I lost my track. I try and I try and I try and I try. The way I try, it's time to say goodbye. This is what love do. I'm tired, this is how you lose. My trust for you, if only you knew. How much I've tried, what love do. I've had enough. You broke my trust. You killed the vibe. I've had enough. Won't waste my time. Love, you hit me down. Love, you hit me down. Love, you hit me down. Love, lost I can't be found. Lost I can't be found. Lost I can't be found. Love, you make it so hard to breathe. You make it so hard to see. I'm blind. Love, you make it so hard to breathe. You make it so hard to see. I'm blind. Oh, this is what love do. I'm tired, this is how you lose. My trust for you, if only you knew. How much I've tried, what love do. sunshine and new life in the way I need. Counting the days until summer, feeling the warm rays upon my face. Leave all my worries in the gentle breeze. Need sunshine and new life in the way I need.
Game number 1 between the Ravens and the Warriors goes the way of the Oni Warriors. And if you want to support the Oni Warriors or any of your favorite teams or players out there, make sure you go over to shop.hi-rezstudios.com/SPL and you can pick up a jersey, hoodie, or t-shirt for your favorite team. You know, with all the changes that we've had from Masters till now, a lot of players swapping around with rosters, maybe you need to refresh and get yourself a new jersey to represent the team that your players now moved over towards. So make sure one more time you go over to shop.hi-rezstudios.com/SPL to pick up your SPL merchandise for Season 10 of the SMITE Pro League. Thank you so much to Skulls for providing the jerseys and the hoodies and all of the apparel out there for the SMITE Pro League here in Season 10. And Trelly, this one looked pretty easy for the Oni Warriors, to say the least. I mean, 12 minutes in, we're 6,000 to 8,000 gold up for the Oni Warriors. A run-it-down style of comp. Ran it down early, and they never let it off the gas the entirety of that game.
Yeah, and please understand, my job is to analyze these drafts, and
Yes.
I'm not doing my job if I say the Ravens let open Yemoja and Pele, this game's over. But that's what I wanted to say. And once we got to see how that game played out, it seemed pretty similar, right? This does not seem like a meta where you can let those 2 picks slide, especially when you're in first pick. And what are you getting for giving those up? That's the big difference maker. The Highland Ravens seem to me like a squad that hasn't quite figured out their identity, how they want to play. Khepri Olorun was a comp that really does get pushed in if you're given any sort of pressure to that lane, which is exactly what happened. The Oni Warriors were able to play through this Pele so well. You've got double dive with the Daji again. And what are you getting in return? Marty's old news. He was bottom pick. There's a reason he made it the whole way through. I did like the Susano grab at the end there, because I do think that was something that Panitom would have liked to go to in the process, but the Amaterasu just did not bring enough pressure. It was clear from the start the Highland Ravens wanted to let those picks through and try to play through solo lane, try and play through Haddix. Just didn't end up working out for him.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure if they even had the possibility to do so.
Yeah, it was a tough fight back here for the Highland Ravens. A couple of shining moments, one being 20-some-odd minutes into the game before the first kill goes the way of the Ravens. They're able to take down Pegon in a 2v1, and only barely did they take him down. I believe Scream was just sitting at like less than 100 HP by the time the end of that 2v1 ends out there. But I mean, when the Oni Warriors are 3-4-man stacking to dive tier 2 tower at 11.5 minutes, it's kind of telling of the state of the game. At least for the Oni Warriors in position they put themselves in to now win out game number 1. So changes now for the Highland Ravens. I think immediately for me, not just execution on field, but I don't think you should probably be letting Pele and Yemoja go through to the same team comp in the top 2.
I mean, and if you are, Ama is not the prize that you are getting in return, right? And I think that if you get Ama, you're looking for pressure with that pick, because you want, again, the Ravens revealed that they are trying to play through solo as far as I'm concerned. That was what that pick told me. They put Khepri and Olorun into duo. You're not ganking duo lane consistently. You're saying, hey, let's hope Zap plays safe or at least is able to survive. Unfortunately, he wasn't. We saw that 0-8. But if you are getting that, you got to find pressure elsewhere. Get something in Scream's hands that he can be dynamic. The Susano is all well and good, but up into a Taji, the Hades, the beads was not enough. Scream was at one point level 14 to Pegon's 20. Like, he needed more farm.
Well, let's see. More farm can come the way of the Highland Ravens. They take first pick once more here in Picks and Bans for game number 2 between the Ravens and the Warriors. We'll see what changes do end up getting made. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, for the Ravens, their first 3 bans were Thoth, Odin, and Chernabog.
Yep.
We'll see if they keep those same 3 or if they maybe try and take something away from the Warriors and try and slot something for themselves a little bit earlier on. Oni Warriors will stick with their Camazotz ban. This was the #1 go-to pick for Scream during the kickoff tournament. But now not going to let the Pele through. The Highland Ravens, they let Pegon have his fun for 1 game. They said, that's enough for me. What else do you have left going? We'll see if that Thoth also gets banned alongside it, considering that's been one that Pegon has been going to whenever it does kind of poke its head into the meta.
I would assume you got to let the Thoth through here. Again, I'm a firm believer that the Highland Ravens came in with a strategy. They banned the Thoth because that was something that Ven didn't want to deal with. You know, it's been happening time and time again where that matchup in particular, especially with, if the plan was always Marty, if you wanted to go to Martichoras, Thoth is going to outrange Marty, force out the ult just with 1 evade and punish. Sure, the ultimate's great. Death from above can try and counter him out after that, but this is going to be the smartest look. So yeah, you got to leave the Thoth open, and you got to take away that Cernunnos because that is something the Oni Warriors can use so well. Throw the Morrigan into that composition, and it becomes almost unstoppable. So I do like the change-ups from the Highland Ravens. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an Amaterasu first pick once again. The big difference for me is going to be, what's the support grab? Are you going to something immobile like Khepri, or are you grabbing something for Scream early on? It's difficult because the Oni Warriors in particular have been saving Panitom's pick for last, and both of these junglers want to try and get that counter pick. They want to try and see what the opposition is grabbing before they lock in. But the Highland Ravens chose first pick. They wanted this, so we'll have to see how they play it.
Camazotz Ganesh for the Warriors. See what their final ban ends up being here against the Highland Ravens. If you want to focus out Scream, the Ratatoskr was the other pick that he was going to during kickoff, so we'll see if that one still gets makes its way through.
That's zapulated right there. See
That-
that? That's just a zap diff.
That is the ultimate power move. You just camped and farmed Zapman for 25 minutes, put him down like 0-8 in a game. They said, you know what? We'll do a mercy one for you. We won't let you go through it on that pick again. Oni Warriors ban out the Olorun, pick up Amaterasu once more for the Highland Ravens. But what do you give up in response to the question? Yemoja still open, locked in by the Warriors. The fortunate news is you can't give up Yemoja Pele. Maybe the unfortunate part is that you can give up something just as equally devastating in Pegon's hands and set.
Yeah, this is all par for the course. We knew this was happening. This is the changeup I need to see. If it is going to be like Khepri Freya, the Highland Ravens they have a game plan. They're sticking to it. Whether or not it works, you know, is up to play on field. But I think this is where we should see a changeup, more pressure. The Amaterasu, that was going to be obvious, but this needs to be something that can deal with Yemoja set. And honestly, the Khepri isn't a bad look for the set in particular, but I don't know, man. It's something about letting Pegon rotate around the map for free that is an issue. And it's not Ven's playstyle. Sure, he could go to something like the Morrigan and just be set himself, and I think that's a decent matchup. But how are you locking down Pegon? That is the question. Game 1, there was 0 answers, except that one time that Pegon soloed Zap and then got caught lazy backing underneath the tier 2 tower and they dove him. Do the Highland Ravens even have answers? That's my question. I wouldn't hate to see the Morrigan, though, to be honest with you. It's something that Ven has played in the past, but hasn't went to it in quite some time. It's a decent opportunity to try and match the rotation pressure of set, and because you already give it up, might as well put one on your team. He's just so strong.
We did see a bit of Morrigan banned during kickoff. That was mostly against Dardas specifically, that god was being banned away from. We'll see if the Highland Ravens do end up picking up the Morrigan, or what else gets slotted in place. Because obviously now you can't run the Khepri Olorun with the Olorun banned away, but as you mentioned, Khepri could still be an option for the Ravens. Instead, it will be Terra locked in for the duo lane. Give that one over to Hurriwind. And won't be the Morrigan. Instead, it'll be Morgan Le Fay.
That's what I said, yeah.
For the Highland Ravens. So, I mean, how do you feel about Morgan Le Fay right now? Feels like she hasn't really had a place in the meta in some time, but every so often we see some players kind of pick her up for a game or two here and there.
Yeah, Morgan Le Fay is very good at self-peel, and I think it's matchup-oriented, right? You look into who is going to be diving you consistently. If it's a melee unit, you go Morgan Le Fay if you don't think you have much self-peel, or if you don't think you have much team peel. And Terra can certainly provide it, but I think Ven knows he's going to be left on an island for a good portion of this game. There's going to be a lot of focus on duo. There's going to be a lot of focus on solo. And Ven has to peel for himself. Dragonflight, Fear, Slow. You know, you throw your third ability, you got extra movement speed as well. All of that is going to help try and stay alive against this set. So not a terrible pick here for the Highland Ravens, but I'm still missing a bit of that pressure. Hopefully in the bottom 2 we'll see what Scream goes to try and combat that. And of course, if Pegon's not on the set, Panitom can take it just as easily. It is one of those picks that can play essentially 4 roles right now. Still, I mean, the fact that Set is getting through so consistently is still surprising me because I still think he's one of the top gods in the game. Anti-heal does, sort of stop exactly what he wants to do, but he still does a ton of damage even without that Kingslayer passive proccing constantly.
I think my big question is where's Scream going to go to for his pick?
Oh, yeah.
Because Scream has never really been one of those players to fall in line with the meta. He kind of just does his own thing. When everybody else was playing, Pele, Susano, and things like that during kickoff, he was playing Camazotz. A little bit of Ratatosker in there as well, but mostly was trying to just stick to the Camazotz, see how often it could work for him. Didn't perform the strongest from at that time, but still it was enough of a threat for the Warriors to ban it away. Cernunnos will be the next lock-in now. With quite a few hunters taken away, though, in fairness. Chernobog, Olorun, Artemis, and Ramban. Seeing Cernunnos pop in here. I think it's been a moment since we've seen Cernunnos kind of be one of those top hunter selections, but maybe given the amount that's been taken away, not as surprising.
I'm shocked at that pick, man.
Ooh.
Like, I said in the previous picks and bans, it seems like the Highland Ravens are like trying to figure out their own meta, but Erlang Shen into a matchup like this seems awful. Like, what does Erlang ever do to Cern? And again, you're playing through duo, so Cern just cripples, walks away, wild hunt at your feet. It is a very difficult matchup, but again, I have to give credit. Scream has earned the benefit of the doubt in some situations when he's going to these off-meta picks, as you said. I was thinking of something like the Tsukuyomi. No one else is playing that. That's something that Scream likes to play. So I have to assume he has a plan. But I am not a big fan of this pick. Haven't been for quite some time. Especially in a matchup like this. There are some gods, there are some immobile characters that I think Erlang really can succeed into. And I don't see too many of them on the side of the Oni Warriors pick.
We saw very little Erlang Shen this year. I think we saw a little bit during the Masters playoffs, saw a little bit during Masters as well. But it's primarily Sino who was going for a pick like that. We've seen Scream play it, I think, one time so far this year as well. Not a very common pick, but a very sustain-heavy style of composition here from the Ravens. You have the Amaterasu self-sustain, Terra, and Erlang Shen with theirs. So maybe some anti-heal on the mind for the Oni Warriors. But the Warriors draft Thor and Set as a combo in the 2v2, some semi-global pressure. I'll ask it again because I feel like it almost needs to be. Island Ravens, they struggled in the early game for game number 1. Is this a better composition against the Warriors to be able to help them sustain through early this time?
I definitely like this comp a little bit better just because I think that Erlang does have that early pressure that they were lacking, and that's something that the Highland Ravens absolutely need. Also, they've got Ishtar instead of the Olorun, so they're not super reliant on getting to late game where, that sanctified field makes so much more value. However, if you're asking me who I give, game-wide, map-wide pressure to and what team I'm leaning towards, yeah, if I was betting my channel points, I would be looking towards the Oni Warriors.
And you got a lot of channel points to bet there, Charlie.
I mean, because I'm always right. Because I always bet them. I've never been wrong.
Charlie's never been wrong in a case like this. We'll see if the Oni Warriors can kind of keep up this onslaught from game number 1, now maybe pivoting this into game number 2. Where are kind of the areas that you would like to see the Oni Warriors put that pressure to try and get themselves a better early game to make this one an easier time for themselves?
I mean, the Oni Warriors can pick a lane, essentially, just because it's, again, the Highland Ravens have shown their hand. They are playing through solo. Scream is going to try and gank Haddix. He's going to try and gank Sot. It's not easy to do, especially if you're not having that tainted steel start. Like if Sot just heals through, pops his blade on a wave, and then stays underneath tower, he's gonna stay safe. So either A, you're matching that duo pressure and trying to head over there with Panitom, or you're sticking to your guns and ganking solo.
Can the Highland Ravens bring things back and tie up the set 1-1, or are the Oni Warriors going to go on to match point? Let's find out in game number 2.
We'll have to see. A pretty big change up here from the Ravens as we jump into game 2. It's Gore, it's inbound. And of course, it's Doug giving us the view into the game. And inbound, a lot of things that were successful for the Warriors, even though they've changed up some of the draft itself. still going to exist there. Also, 82 to 18. So even more overwhelmingly in the Warriors. And I guess that's the easiest setup question I can ask. Do you agree that it's that wide of a margin?
I mean, after game 1, it's hard to not say I'm 80% confident in the Warriors.
I kind of want to go like predict the Ravens just to like skew some numbers for them here.
I mean, they're good value, surely, right? 5-1. Good
Can
value.
you imagine
You
how many
1,000
channel points that 18% is going to get?
That's crazy.
Maybe I go
amount.
back. Hold on.
Jimmy, I'll take
Hold
over
on.
for a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I just want to talk about the Warrior comp and the Ravens comp for a second. The Warriors essentially running back the same thing. I think a big difference, though, is the mid lane pressure is a lot more even this game. Pele goes to that Bluestone, Soul Eater, Jotun's very quick spikes. Set, on the other hand, goes for the Sigil Trans, way, way, way slower. And then we compare the other side, Venenu on this Morrigan. She is not an assassin, but she can scuffle like an assassin can as soon as she gets that first item online, because she has a lot of hard CC right on top of her, a lot of self-peel, and a good amount of damage with that amount of survivability. So mid lane should go a lot more even. Solo's obviously going to be in favor of the Hades again. It happened last time. And then duo is just a lot more safe. That's a big thing Trelly highlighted about the Ravens duo lane. Ishtar can play a lot more safe than Olorun can. But she also has the same type of early game where she can dominate that early game. So I actually like to see this Ishtar. I feel like she was just kind of falling out of the meta for really no reason. And actually, that half second that Netta has to go back and pick up his purple buff means this lane is going to be dominated in the early game by the Ravens. And that's maybe not something you think of as big, but it really is big. Now they're going to be on the back foot for this wave, the back foot for the next wave, and now Terra's going to get a free level 3. A lot of damage on the Panitom there.
Yeah, a lot of from Scream specifically as he gets aggressive. And that's another thing that was highlighted, right? So not only do you get the small victories, I think that lead to maybe bigger victories over in the left for the Ravens. We'll have to see how long that persists, I think is the real key here. But you get to see the Erlang from Scream, and it's more early slanted, right? We've seen what Erlang Shen can do. He likes to play early, he likes to fight, and that's something that the Trelly had said like the Susano was kind of missing. And he's standing there, the mannequins has been picked up for him as well. And so do you like, the way Erlang plays? Really in just like the current meta. It's been a while since he's been up here.
Yeah, I mean, exactly that. I've not seen much Erlang either, and it's weird seeing a mannequins. We have not seen much mannequins. It did have the buff recently. It used to be 750 gold. It's now 650 gold. Scream's actually looking for this gank on a Solo. Solo should have a point to every ability, and he has his beads.
Well, he doesn't have his 2, so no fear available. But he has the dash, and usually that's enough. The Mink form from Scream closes gap. But what we did get to see is something that never happened last time around, which is SoloOrTroll actually feeling pressure in lane.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of what you need, because in 30 seconds, that blue buff is going to be spawning. And last time that blue buff was spawning, Solo had all the pressure. Panitom had all the pressure. They walked to that blue buff for free.
Yeah.
Scream now, this game, is actually playing to push this wave. He's playing to get this pressure to be able to confirm their own blue buff. And this is going to spell huge things for Haddix. Not being behind means he can actually farm up, he can actually push out waves, and not just be sitting under tower while every blue buff is getting invaded.
He actually hit 4 before Sot did, so that's it's just a small sign, but one of success that's coming for him. And with the pressure that's going on, and more specifically, where we see the junglers going, it's going to be a blue buff skirmish. Maybe it's going to be an attempt on Sot's life here. Scream loops around instead, Mink form in, damage should be there. Wall, great stun coming out from Panitom to find a double stun. Then a little bit of return damage forces Haddix and Scream to rethink how they're going to aggress here. Panitom single-handedly stops it, and then he goes in with the double tap, finds the first blood, and now how things have changed. The blue buff invade. It's going to be on the other side. Pulled under the tower from Haddix. Wall stun, double tap, double kill
And he dies
for
to
Panitom.
tower.
What a great play from the jungler. Poor
Wow.
Genetics is going to, rewrite some history for the Warriors here. Finally.
It doesn't even really matter. He got that purple buff. He did exactly what he wanted to do. That's 2 purple buffs down for the Warrior side, and then Panitom puts an absolute performance on over in solo lane. I mean, that was one of the cleanest Thor plays I've seen in a long, long time, and he didn't even use his ult. He just used basically his 1, 2, and 3.
And we've been talking behind the scenes, just top plays, things like that, and conversation. That's got to be up there.
That's number
man. That
one. I'll
was
say it
so
right now. Number
good.
1.
Who's going to do something better this week? That's going to be the main goal. And in fact, especially now it looks like the Ravens are going to be playing a little more passive, considering things just fell apart for them. And Warriors, I'm looking at you to try and keep that going for them. We can take a look back at what Panitom was able to do there. And very importantly, like you said, he doesn't even have his ult.
Yeah, and he dies to tower too, so it's not even like this is a 2-for-1 trade. This is just Panitom putting this early game in solo on his back. This is the lane that they wanted to play through, the Ravens. They can't even play through it anymore.
And it's crazy to think, and realistically, watching it back from time of kill, I guess, onto Scream versus time of kill onto Haddix, and realizing that not a single one of them were able to hit him, right? The CC was there to lock him down, and he just made sure, in a way, maybe not even intentionally, that he was going to end up giving that kill over to the tower instead.
And we can also highlight, he peeled out solo too before that even happened. He got a double stun and then got a double tap that led to the kill end up actually happening. Panitom is really feeling himself. He's got full Bumbas right now. Solo's got the full book. We've got a level lead on that side of the map for both of the Warriors players.
And what a great, just a great solo lane for the Warriors. If you're a Ravens fan, you're probably feeling a little something after the way that one went. But that is a good start if you're looking for your jungler to do well. And now we're back into that conversation where 1,000 gold up, 5 minutes in, maybe not as much pressure as last game. But that's where it started. That's how it started to skew out. So the Ravens need to get their hands on a little more. I think they're going to do it.
I think a big point also with this game is Venenu can actually walk to these mid camps, and it's an opportunity for them to actually fight on them.
Yeah.
The Pele walks to the mid camps, you kind of have to give it up. Hurri's actually walled off, and Yemoja ult is out. He should be down.
Gonna be a kill. Yeah, Panitom. Wow, that's actually maybe the worst person to pick it up. 3-1 now for him. As he turns it around, you burn the relics, the ult from Hurri, and just steal away the purple as well. Panitom's, whatever he ate this morning, Oxy, note it down, because that's what he needs to have every single game day.
Get to Costco, buy that in bulk. We're going to need a lot of those Wheaties, whatever it was, because Panitom is playing unreal. All over the map, he's made plays now in solo, he's made plays in mid, and he just went and made a play in duo. All over the map, this Warriors team is just in control.
He hadn't even had an ult yet. We haven't even seen like a massive Thor dunk to get some of that space. He's just finding Haddix, speaking of, pushed really far up. Maybe he's going to go for something. Taunt from Scream, and they're looking for Panitom. You've got a little bit of a help, and the hammer's going to get him out of there. Great ult from Sot, keeps Scream locked down. That's going to be a disengage up into the air. But does he go back in? Low health bar for Scream. You will be losing your life. No, instead he dunks down, finds the kill, and thwarts the Ravens one more time. Panitom is feeling the Thor, and I'm with him.
You mentioned we haven't seen him ult yet. How did you like his first ult?
You know what? I'm here for it, man. Low health. If things go wrong, you're going to die, and yet he still manages to turn it around. I'll watch plays like that every day.
That is, Panitom is really having a performance so far. And now you have to look at the map kind of entirely how it's going. It's only 2K. It's really not that bad for the Ravens, but they're riding this momentum high. You have 3-1-1 on Panitom, making plays everywhere. Scream is now 0-2-0 with that Crusher Mannequin start. This Ravens team does not scale as well as it did last game. They have, you know, Erlang in jungle instead of the Susano, and then they have basically the same amount of scaling everywhere else. So they don't scale as well, but Hurri looking for the 1v1. Not enough damage. That Sigil and set 3 makes him so tanky to the Morrigan's damage. He just gets out of there.
And that's the issue is this set, right? You had mentioned it. Hey, you don't have to deal with as much pressure as the Pele is going to bring. You do have to deal with a late game set eventually, though. And so that's kind of the, I want to say ticking time bomb, although it seems like there's an active bomb, and that's Panitom that's just on the map. Very difficult to deal with. And you can see some of that pressure. He's evading over on left, just trying to ward them away. And ward himself. I mean, it's every single buff, I think, right here is covered, except for the speed, which is maybe just a little too deep. And so they've got the vision. Netrioid's going to be waiting on the purple.
I mean, this Warriors team is starting to suffocate him a little bit. They're walking into this jungle. Wards are out. They're here for every buff timer.
Zap's going to try to fight it, or at least try to steal it. I don't think fight is the right term. And it doesn't look like he was able to pick that one up. Has to fall back as it was pulled just out of range of him. And you also had 3 Warriors that were trying to secure it up into the sky right now. And then a dunk down. I thought there was going to be more. Maybe Panitom just noted he hadn't ulted in a little while, even stuns out, forces Scream to use the blink, and then gets out of there no problem.
Scream actually had a good play being made there on Panitom, and Panitom just shut it down,
Said
just
no.
put the wall down. No, I don't think we'll fight here. Gets out. Scream burns Blink now. 140 seconds until Scream can actually, make a good play. Erlang can make plays kind of with any ability, but you kind of need that Blink in this part of the game to be able to make those plays. So now Panitom is going to be shutting that down for a little bit by, not getting gone on with that Blink.
It's going to give him a little bit of a window. And you can see it really starting to manifest, at least level-wise, right? Last time, it was just unfortunate for the Ravens. You had mentioned it, only, 2,000 gold, a level here or there, and actually, Scream technically has the experience lead over Panitom. But that's until Panitom comes back and reclaims more of his jungle, as we've come to learn on the left-hand side. And maybe it's just been because the kill focus, right, hasn't picked it up. I've talked to Mifflin about this. He's got a couple of buffs ready for himself waiting, so realistically he's doing just fine. But we also haven't seen too much out of the duo lane. Is this kind of what you expected coming into this? I mean, Zap got some early pressure, but otherwise now it's shifted back towards Netrioid, given the Warriors maybe more to work with. But it's kind of a stalemate unless the junglers are there.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of what Terra and Yemoja provide. It's just this lane that you don't really want to go to that lane. It's really hard to kill Terra. It's really hard to kill Yemoja unless you have really hard CCs. And I mean, they do have the hard CCs, but these supports are in a pretty solid spot. Genix for sure has full Thebes, level 9. He also has that shell. Hurry's got 32 stacks on his Thebes. He's also got the shell. Just a lot of survivability. I don't mind them not really going over there, especially when they're making so many plays in right lane. Solo's up 2 levels. He's got the breastplate. He's got the book. Haddix is going for the same sort of build. Oni's into Berserkers, the double mitigation type of build. And this is just not also a lane you really want to be playing through if you're the Ravens anymore. You're not killing Solo. He's too tanky at this point. You're going to be farming up over here, mostly just farming up everywhere. This slower portion of the game is going to be huge for the Ravens. They don't want to be forcing too many things.
Small things. A minute until the beacon spawns, so maybe an opportunity. Last time around, we had a very easy conversation about what the beacon fight would look like because there was no chance and no reason for the Ravens to try and fight it. This time around, do you think they could step up to try and contest a beacon if the Warriors go for it?
I mean, they could. I think beacon fights are something that people get baited by a lot. It's value. You definitely get value from it, but it's also a chance at throwing the game. And that actually, Genetics and Netrioid playing too far up.
Yeah, aggressive. Rivers of Butte gets Netrioid out of here. Should help Genetics get away. Though with the tanky health bar that he's already got, a Sovereignty online, it's going to be enough. Pegon's diving the tier 1 and walking out of there. So while the Ravens were playing aggressive over on left, everybody else on the Warriors was looking to get something done. Sot tanks up the tower for a little bit, lets Panitom get some damage. Wall, double tap, not going to connect. And it's not going to be enough to put Haddix down, but you still get the solo kill in mid. Pegon, and you had pointed this out kindly, didn't even have to use the relics for it.
Yeah, I mean, Pegon just went in there, one-shot Venenu. Venenu actually didn't reset for his Aegis yet, so he just kind of got bullied under that tower. And, Pegon still had that safety of, if, for some reason Scream does rotate here and he can get to this mid-tower as I'm diving, I have these double relics. I am safe. It was a little risky diving that solo tower. This Alma is nearly unkillable right now. She is very, very tanky. And Solo and Panitom aren't really building that well to kill tanks. You have 10% pen on Panitom. Solo's actually got no pen other than the flat pen. So that's not somebody you really want to kill. I wouldn't expect them to go back there. Now they're grouping on this Gold Fury.
Well, the good news for right now is that we have listen-ins available again. So we're going to go in. The Warriors are going to clean this one up pretty clean. So maybe there's not even a fight around it. And so we're going to go ahead and just call that as a sneak preview for what will be eventually.
We're just telling you
they
guys
killed
we
the
have
Fury
the
too fast, guys. And honestly, I bet the comms were very simple. But that'll happen. You know what? Maybe a Fire Giant a little bit later will be able to peek in for him. Hurry. Under pressure on left. Wall is good. And Panitom's just been everywhere. 3, 1, and 1. Doesn't seem like it. And this goes back to what you said. Terra's just kind of hard to kill. And they're not going to be able to get that. Guess who's easy to kill? Ishtar with no beads.
Exactly. And I think that's kind of what the Warriors wanted from that little play. They got beads down on Zapman with the Cern ult from Netrioid. And then they just wanted to try to bait out that Terra ult. Like, oh, we're going to commit to you. And as soon as he uses the ult, they back up.
Yep.
They just get that for free. 4K gold in favor of the Warriors. Pyro's going to be spawning soon. Another fight where the Ravens can defend it, and they don't want to be slowly, bleeding out. They don't want to be losing all these objectives, but This is something that I wouldn't mind if they give, and then they just try to make a play on the opposite side of the map. Cern is not a hard hunter to kill. He's got a very short-range dash, no CC immunity, and you've got an Erlang that can kind of chase him down.
Yeah.
Maybe you give up this Pyro, you rotate Scream to the other side of the map, and you make a play over there.
Net hadn't even picked up his second relic yet, so it's maybe even easier right now than it would be normally.
And his beads are actually down for a few more seconds, too, so, I mean, they're going to be back up by now.
Yeah,
2v2
but especially by the time
solo.
Scream can get over there, right? I mean, he's on right. There's no way they're going to go in. The dunk misses this time. Panitom's off the mark. Finds
Still
a double
half
tap
health.
with the wall. You've got Pegon as well coming around. Should be spotted out. Hurry's going to be here, but it's going to be a 4v3. Damage is going to be tested. River's Rebuke up, and it's going to lock in the Ravens. You need a little more damage. Wall is great, but the shielding is there. Scream still walking out of here. Finally, someone on the Warriors is able to find that last hit. They only get the one kill, but it's on the jungler, and it puts them up 6-1, 14.5 in.
I really don't like that play by the Ravens. Fighting this 2v2, you don't have the mid pressure, so you're going to get out-rotated. Why are we taking these fights where we are down 5k gold and forcing these 2v2s instead of making a 1v2 on the other side of the map? Or even like a 3v1 and rotate the support over also. Yeah. At this point now, they lost tier 1 tower in right, they lost tier 1 tower in mid in a few seconds maybe with this wave. Maybe it looks like they're going to be giving it up because they don't have the ranged mid laner. But now they're getting the Pyro too.
And that's what I was looking at, the Pyromancer. Netrioid's rotated over, so there's not much of an opportunity. Pegon looks like he's just dealing with the wave.
Yeah, this is a really good thing that the Warriors do better than most other teams, is Pegon's not like a mid laner who will just sit mid and farm mid. Net, a lot of the time, will rotate to this Pyro, and then Pegon will go to dual lane, because, you know, Net's going to be doing a lot more objective damage than Pegon is. But Pegon is the better 1v1er right now. If Zap's over in left lane, Pegon just kills him. So this is a really good, you know, macro play that the Warriors make, that they actually make a lot more than other teams do. And I think it's partially in part of like how Pegon is as a player with his god pool. He plays these assassins.
He's a jungler.
Yeah, he's basically a jungler. But it's something really cool that they do that I think a lot of other teams could look to do also.
And it's something, again, like we watch, at least I watch the minimap a majority of these games to see where people are. And to catch things like Panitom right now shimmying his way over towards right. And it could cause a little bit of trouble, but gets sniffed out by Haddix. And the wave getting pushed in for Netrioid. Does Scream have enough pressure over here? I guess if he walks out of the tower. Blink's not up for 15 seconds, goes in. That's going to force the beads from the taunt. Immediate dash, you had mentioned short range and stunned out. Has a little help from Genetics. Riptide gets the disengage. And it pulls out 2 ults from the Ravens with nothing to show.
I mean, I like that they're trying to make a play on this side of the map. Netrioid's a very smart player. He doesn't dash away from his support. We actually have a fight in mid. Pegon's looking to go in a 2v1.
He's got the damage, man. One more auto. And poor Hurry, showcasing the sad part of being a support, which is knowing that it doesn't matter that Pegon's that low. You just don't have the damage if you don't have the CC. And Pegon gets away with murder in mid. 3-0-1, looking to try and start up the Pele legacy again.
Yeah, there is really nothing much you could be doing, and Scream actually gets poked to half also. I mean, you get dove by the set at this point. You have a 3.5 item set. Those 3 items are really all you need at this point. That extra attack speed from Crusher, the extra
Poor
pen.
Scream.
Scream is just getting bullied out.
Poor Scream. Yeah, he's caught right side jungle, hits an ult from Sot, and then damage from Panitom. And now a fire call, 17 minutes in from the Warriors. And there is not a single Raven in sight to try and step up to this one and do anything about it. And inbound, I mean, we were talking about free objectives last time around and the damage-wise, with 7,000 gold separating them. Now a Fire Giant presumably going to be on all 5. It depends a little bit on what happens with Pegon. Maybe they're going to try to make a play. Fire Giant over towards the Warriors, but Primal Fury started up by the Ravens. Sot's coming in from the bottom. Pegon's up top. There's just enough CC and just enough damage to make sure that the zone is there, and the Ravens pull at least 1 back in the face of what has been nothing but Warriors.
Yeah, it doesn't feel great losing the fire for free, but at least they get the trade. They get that Gold Fury. They're also going to be losing the Beacon. Now the Warriors are going to be set up for this. They have about 8k gold lead, looking to start sieging these tier 2 towers. Every tier 2 is up for the Ravens. That is a lot of gold on the map for the Warriors. I'm interested to see, because they are so far ahead, are they going to be looking for all 3 of these towers, or are they going to be looking to siege that Phoenix right away and use that same type of sustain that they used in the previous game?
We'll have to see where they go with this. What kind of... So last time around, the first Fire Giant ended up resulting in a lot more for the Warriors than an early Fire Giant usually does. Pegon might look for a pick. No, there's a teleport coming through. There's a lot of investment from the Ravens to come over on left and make sure Zap stays alive. There's 3 tier 2s still standing though, right? The first minute, like the Warriors weren't hyper aggressive immediately after getting it. And so it feels a little slower pace. Do you expect to see a Phoenix come down, or are we just weird looking strictly at tier 2s right now?
Yeah, I expect tier 2s with level 20s. Pegon, or Set I should say, more so as a god, really spikes when he gets that sigil because he becomes nearly unkillable with it. And then Solo also with that breastplate, that tinted breastplate, whatever one it ends up going, breastplate or amulet, also becomes very hard to deal with. So I do expect just the tier 2 towers to go down, and then I expect them to reset. But because they do have such a big lead, they could look to siege even after the fire is done because of where they're set up.
Zap ult comes out. And defense for left. And admittedly, he saved the tower, but now he's in a dangerous spot. Has beads and Aegis, so maybe that's going to keep him feeling a little bit better. 1-0-0, so hasn't had a huge hand on the game just yet. Scream and Panitom in a 1v1. The top was good. The pin was great, but Panitom, hammer over the wall, gets the disengage that's necessary. And this might be actively the Ravens stopping a siege.
Yeah, I mean, they're bullying out Panitom. Panitom's actually going to have to hit that reset button quick. And, you know, if Scream is level 17, maybe he's got that kin size. We're talking about a different story there where that is a shutdown kill actually onto Panitom, or just a kill onto Panitom, and Scream's maybe back into the game. Unfortunately, he's 2 items deep. He's level 16. Probably partially result because of that 0-4 stat line so far. But I like that he's still being aggressive. They are behind, but the game is not unwinnable. 10k gold is a lot, but they still have all their tier 2s up. They didn't lose a single tier 2 yet, and the Fire Giant has only got another minute left on it.
So gold-wise, and it's not often that I will actively go look at the graphic for this, but it's not been that much of a swing in favor of the Warriors. Experience has gone their way, 3k. And the gold, you can tell, especially if they're able to pick this one up at the end, is going to go their way. But a lot of items are being finished, and that's maybe the biggest thing. They just hit a lot of power spikes and stepping up to the mid-Phoenix. We'll see if they can play aggressively. Scream goes in. River's Rebuke is great. Phoenix is already down. Scream follows quickly thereafter. Sot goes forward, and in the blink of an eye, 3 Ravens are gone. Scream, Vin, and Hurry. Now Panitom up into the sky, looking for the dunk, finds it onto Zap, and 4 gone. Double kill for Sot. The Titan exposed, and the Warriors are here. They emphatically end this one 21 minutes in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the kills. The dual lane doesn't have a single kill for the Warriors. They're actually all in mid, jungle, and solo. So I think we can talk about who really kind of carried that game. It was that side of the map.
I was thinking, okay, we're going to see like a little bit of Phoenix poke. Team's going to back off. Prepping Convert, like, okay, what are we going to talk about while we reset for Fire Giant? Where's the Fury? Like, I'm looking at timers for a second there, and they just walked in. I mean, like, they showed no fear. Is it the pick on to Scream, like what, or just how fast the Phoenix falls? Like what makes it so easy to just spearhead into the Phoenix?
I mean, it's just how quick everyone fell. It was Scream instantly, Hurry instantly, and then it was 3, 4, 5. The rest of them were just gone. And if you kill that many people that quickly when you have that Phoenix dead, it's a pretty free siege. As soon as they get that Deathbringer, Heartseekers, Sigils, Tainted, they had so many spikes for that fight.
And I was thinking, man, this has kind of been like a really slow Fire Giant. Like, we haven't seen a push onto the tower. Like, when we have, like, they walked away. So, like, what are we expecting? You started pointing out the items. I'm like, oh, perfect. Like, we've got something. They're going to get this Phoenix back up. You've got a clear horizon to go to. It turns out those items were the key to victory.
Yeah, they weren't backing up. They were playing for the end there.
It's just impressive from the Warriors, man. Faster this time around, even though it's a slower start. They end the game at 21 minutes in, and they stomp down the Ravens. They're now up 2-0. It's a best of 5. They've got 1 more to win it. The Ravens have 3 more to try and figure things out, assuming they can figure it out immediately, because they've got to work real hard to try and turn this around. We'll see what they can do right after this.
Out here on the street, I'm losing my way. You've gotten to me, and that's my mistake. Some might say I can't get too far without seeing your face. Oh, you gave me your heart and took it away. I'm going underground, going Where there was a spark, there's now only doubt. No, no, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Oh, I thought you were sure, now you're a losing. I'm going underground, going underground. Say your loving comes around, loving comes around. Going underground, 'cause your love is not around anymore. Going underground, underground, yeah. Going underground, underground, yeah. I'll lay you to rest in pieces. No picture on a t-shirt.
Game number 2 looked very similar to game number 1 here for the Oni Warriors, but in a much faster pace. This time, I believe only 21, 22 minutes of gameplay this time through. The Oni Warriors absolutely run right through the Highland Ravens. And so, Charlie, I think for me, the question then comes down to what has to change for the Highland Ravens? Because they've tried this team comp style twice, and it just has not worked out for them.
I mean, I don't know what the big overarching change would be. It seems like there's a lot of little things that are a big issue. I still think the picks and bans are a great place to dive in because that seems to be... I mean, the second I saw Erlang locked in, I did not have much faith in how this team fight was going to go, and it's not because Erlang's a useless pick, but he outlives his usefulness pretty quickly once he actually loses that early game pressure, which they never get. So because of that, just did not seem like the Highland Ravens were planning for a late game fight, right? They were hoping to get ahead, and if they did, yeah, maybe they could have rolled through with a win, but they never did, and that's why we came back here so quickly. That's why we're back on the desk 21 minutes after we left it, because the Oni Warriors just never dropped pressure. You can try banning out the set, you can try banning out the Pele, but there is just so many different hard carries on this team. And in this case, Panitom had a fantastic performance on the Thor. Got off swinging after diving Haddix underneath that tower, and really never stopped since.
Yeah, it feels like it's hard to really ban out the carries necessarily of the Oni Warriors. It also just feels like there's maybe some frontline options that can be altered a bit against the Warriors to try and deal with it. Maybe get rid of the Yemoja potentially. It's now 2 games in a row. Genetics has had it. He's looked good on it both times through. These River Rebukes have been used for different occasions, and that's always what, you know, one of the things we talk about when we see a Yemoja is the use of that ultimate. Are we only using it to funnel down a lane and lock one person in, or are we seeing in some case like Genetics where he uses it under a Phoenix, cuts off a bird entirely, maybe cuts in, you know, the one key player and lock those ones down there? So maybe a switch up in that regard to the Yemoja, get away from Genetics at this point. I mean, the Highland Ravens, they're scared of this Odin, maybe rightfully so with what SOT's been able to do, but maybe there's some other picks that you can let through to maybe try and take away some of these key problems.
Yep, the Odin's scary still. Like,
Yeah,
I
it's
understand the thought process here for the Ravens, but it may be time to see, you know, hey, Sad doesn't have to rotate out for at least 12 minutes, so maybe we ban away the Odin, the set, the Pele, or try and grab one of those for ourselves, and then, you know, figure out exactly how you want to play around that pick. And considering the cage, you know, there's Phantom Shell, there's attack speed, there's Fafnir, Yorm. There's ways to break the cage. Doesn't seem to be ways to deal with the set and the Pele, at least so far, that the Highland Ravens have shown us. So there's more answers, right? But Zap goes 0-8 game 1. He goes 1-1. He actually went even in game number 2. That's a good switch up. The Ishtar looked better. I mean, I don't even think you can classify percentage-wise how much better 1-1 is than 0-8. It is, like, just monumentally better.
Well, you can't divide stuff with
That's what
0,
I'm saying.
so.
Like, so it's just, like, infinitely better. So that's a good look. Duo lane look better.
Yeah, keeping the dual lane alive, very important, but also not getting ran out in every other lane at that point. I mean, we saw in that very first highlight where Panitom walks up, says, oh, the blue buff's missing. Oh, I just saw it trail around the corner. I'm going to see who's over there. Oh, you know, it's Haddix at 200 HP. I'm just going to wall double tap under a tier 1 tower and get a kill over there. We'll see if the Highland Ravens can make the change up here in game number 3. Picks and bans in our best of 5. I don't think I mentioned that yet today. Best of 5 for the entirety of the regular phase here for the Road to Worlds. Every single matchup. We'll see how the Highland Ravens can now adapt, because they would have to pull off a reverse sweep to find a set victory here up against the Oni Warriors. Where we're going to see potential 3-0 for the Warriors squad. Already we are seeing some switch ups here. A ban towards Pegon taking the set, and then the Yemoja banned by the Highland Ravens. Opposite side, Oni Warriors will take away Camazotz and Ganesh once more. Oni Warriors have not had to really swap up their draft a whole lot on the bottom end at the very least, and I guess maybe also at the same regards at the top 3 for themselves. But I wonder if we see the Ravens ban the Pele this time, or see if they can leave it open for a first pick for themselves.
I mean, if I'm the Ravens, this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm getting Pele or Odin here. They're guaranteed. And then the Oni Warriors can decide, are we afraid of one of those picks, or are we going to just let the Ravens have one and we grab the other? Those are the mind games that are being played. If the Highland Ravens don't pick Pele or Odin, I mean, they're just playing a different game entirely than what I have been seeing. So let's see which one they value more. Is it the Odin pick, throw it over to Haddix, or do you want to get Scream onto this Pele that has had so much success? That's the choice I would have taken as well. Sure, the option now goes to the Oni Warriors. They can lock in this Odin, or they can say, bro, we didn't even care about that Odin. Sot just liked the special emote that day. He's got 12 other gods that we can pick in this slot.
He just wanted to be the Glizzy Galloper.
Yeah.
That's all he wanted to do, was just bounce around on the hot dog for a little bit. But it's not even going to be an Odin. Amaterasu gets left open, gets picked up right away for the Oni Warriors. And maybe that's also a response of Amaterasu's been left open, so it's usually just that top pick selection.
I mean, that's the thing, though. The Highland Ravens banned this Odin assuming that the Warriors valued it this much. They never, like, first picked it, right? It wasn't like, hey, we need Odin right now.
No.
The Highland Ravens just assumed it would be that highly prioritized. When it finally gets through, they're like, bro, you gave us Ama? That's crazy. We're going to lock that in right there with the Morrigan. And now we already have a Pele for ourselves, right? So now anything the Highland Ravens pick can be used against them. I've been talking about this Morrigan pick for the entirety of this draft, saying that it probably should show up for the Ravens. Ben didn't want it. Pegon's going to take it every time.
A terrifying top 2 for the Oni Warriors with Amaterasu and the Morrigan. Where's the change now for the rest of the Highland Ravens? Getting a top pick for Scream right away, or we'll say give it the option of the flexibility. We have been seeing it the Pele run mid a little bit as well, so potential that maybe Venenu might be able to run this one. Still leaves an option open for Scream if he wants to wait and try and go for a counter pick, or potentially just take the Pele now. Athena drafted up here for the Highland Ravens. Some changes that did come to Athena all the way back when the Season of Celebrations first dropped. We haven't seen a whole lot of Athena, well, I'll say in her more traditional style of roles. We saw Athena mids, we saw Athena jungles. Not as much over here in the side lanes, though.
I think that's just because the damage Athena is fun. It's gimmicky. You can do some big damage if you get it online, and more specifically, it catches people off guard. But in this case, a nice taunt to set up for your Olorun to try and peel that Defender of Olympus. All great tools to try and peel for your squad, which is something the Highland Ravens desperately needed. They needed peel and they needed initiation, which Athena can bring both. But now, the Oni Warriors have 2 Susanos. They have a Pele and a Susano. They've got Dazzling Offensive if they need it. They can use that twice. The Morrigan just brings so much team fight presence to the Oni Warriors dive. And this is something I talked about earlier. You have a Defender of Olympus as well. If Pegon needs to rotate and get over to a side lane, he can do that with the Morrigan's ultimate, which is just so nice and makes Olorun's life so miserable. We already talked about the weaknesses of Olorun in game number 1 when Zap went 0-8. That's because Olorun, without someone just absolutely babysitting him, has a rough time trying to survive the amount of AoE and any bit of CC that can dive him. Amaterasu is not going to be slowed down during Dazzling Offensive. That Sanctified Field will have no effect on her. That stun will be coming through, and there should be some follow-up as well. Positioning, ward coverage, all will be important here for the Highland Ravens.
Second wave of bans, Terra and Khepri from the Ravens. Warriors take away Odin and Artemis. Actually, say Cernunnos one more time here for the Oni Warriors. So saving Genetics for a last pick to see what he wants to go towards. Genetics no stranger to having to go maybe a little bit deeper in the God pool. Very oftentimes, even on his days with the Camelot Kings, that he'd be focused out in the ban category, sometimes eating upwards to 5 or 6 bans before he would even get a chance to draft his God. So we'll have to see what he's got cooking up for himself and the rest of the Oni Warriors. For the Highland Ravens, needing what we can assume, at first I was going to say a mid, but instead it'll be a Naja for the Highland Ravens, and then looking at a Horus, we'll be going over towards Haddix. It's been a while since we've seen the Haddix Horus. But we'll be seeing it here in game number 3, coupled with this Naja from the Ravens. How do you feel about the draft of the Ravens kind of closing this one out?
They're cooking. They are cooking. I want to make sure that I analyze every bit of this draft just to make sure I understand correctly. So you can assume Zap's taking the Olorun and Haddix takes the Horus. That would make the most bit of sense. Or you're with the Athena, which means you just give the Pele over to Ven, and we see if Ven's been piloting this Pele mid. I think there are a couple different places the rest of these picks can go here, but a pick that I thought could be very strong for the Oni Warriors. I was not going to say Geb, but it is going to be hovered. Cabrakan. I was going to say Ymir walls, and guess what? Cabrakan will just provide those walls a little bit safer. There's a lot of characters that don't have any ability to get over walls. Pretty much everyone except for the Horus. I'm thinking Cabrakan can get some insane value here if he's able to use his one effectively. That's kind of your only way in and out of team fights, is that slow immunity, of which the Highland Ravens have a bit of. So you got to make sure you're playing safe and watching your positioning. But as long as you do that, the engage is going to be disgusting. Imagine, you know, just a massive just wall in, and then the Morrigan Susano. You have so much CC, so much disruption, and the Highland Ravens, they've got the ability to try and deal with that if this Naja's connecting ultimates, if you've got that CC landing backwards. But it looks like a lot of just retreat and try and re-engage. That might be the call here for the Highland Ravens.
Well, Highland Ravens have got to get through the early game. That's been the biggest struggle here up against the Oni Warriors. You've got a Pele. You've got a Naja. So Athena Olorun, the duo, feels like you've got some decent pressure over there. Horus should be able to stay alive in solo. Is this a better composition for the Ravens to try? I know I asked it in game 1 and game 2, but I'm going to have to ask it here because that's where the struggle has been. Is this a better comp for the Ravens to fight back against the Warriors here in the early game?
This is the best comp the Ravens have had so far for staying alive in the early game. There's no doubt about it. the issue comes with trying to survive the team fight. I think if the Oni Warriors overcommit, which I would be, if I'm being honest, they often overcommit. It's just they're so good at what they do that it looks stylish and they're able to pull it off, right? Like, for example, we see Panitom dive tower pre-level 5 just to, you know, confirm a kill. It teleports in, dies. That's an overcommitment, right? If Haddix trains, gets one auto attack off, you trade a kill there and it ends up not being worth it because you get the revenge gold. So those kind of plays can happen, and there can be some, you know, counter engage from the Highland Ravens now that they've got this Pele, they've got the Naja against CC, they've got a pick-based composition. The issue just becomes with, are you waiting until the late game? Because if you are, it's scary stuff. The Highland Ravens want to get active early and they want to take a lead and hold it. If the Oni Warriors get ahead, they're probably going to stay ahead.
Yeah, because I'm currently looking at Oni Warriors draft, Amaterasu. That's pretty good late. The Morrigan wants to scale late, get that cooldown towards Changeling, use that as many times as possible. That's terrifying. Susano at any stage of the game is just not fun to play against half the time. And then Cernunnos and Cabrakan over there for the dual lane. Just kind of feels like it's a hard lane to really go up against. So for the Highland Ravens, what's kind of their avenue to get back in here? Which lane are you trying to get that focus in to make yourselves a little bit easier in here in Game 3?
I would not be surprised if Scream is looking to target tanks with the Naja. Probably the best option. You don't have to worry about beads too often, unless, of course, Sot's starting it, which he may be forced into it if he's worried about getting camped. But just trying to find picks with the Windfire wheels and hold on to those leads in those lanes that you find the picks on.
Well, Highland Ravens have got to fight back here and stop the Oni Warriors. Otherwise, this one might just be ending out in 3. Can the Highland Ravens win this one out, or are the Oni Warriors going to sweep it through? Let's find out in Game 3.
That's the question. And if the Warriors get their way, it's going to be asked and answered. As it is Gore inbound, and of course Doug in Game 3. And inbound, what could be the last time, but might not be. And so, all right. Oh, no.
We're missing a recipe.
Look, we're falling apart already. 81-19. That's actually technically slightly more in favor of the Ravens.
For good reason.
Because Scream forgot a recipe.
Well, that's the bad.
I think
that's a bad
that
reason.
should go down
That's
a
a bad
reason.
reason.
Yeah.
But a better comp is a better reason to have
That's
like
a good
better
reason.
chance. The Ravens can actually fight into the Warriors now in the early game. No longer is it, you know, double assassin versus mage warrior. It's now double assassin for the other team now. The Ravens have the double assassin versus mage assassin on the warrior side. Also, they have a solo lane that can win. Horus is a god that if he gets ahead, he can kind of bully this lane out a little bit. And actually, Scream still hasn't backed for his recipe, so he's just kind of missing that completely. And he opts for the Aegis, which means he's basically going to be going into the air. As soon as he lands on the ground, he's going to be Aegising all the bursts that's going to be waiting for him. And it's a risky kind of play style because it doesn't give him great engage, but it gives him really good, like, survivability, and I think that's kind of what he wants.
It's the, I mean, much like you just said, it's the, hey, I don't die on impact level of play, which admittedly is pretty helpful in a lot of scenarios. The one question I really have, though, and it's just because we've seen a lot of the early game, that's where it gets out of hand for the most part. And I was thinking, you know, we had Sot on Ama, you had Panitom on Susano, Pegon on the Morrigan. I felt for sure that Genetics was going to play something maybe a little more tame, and we would see maybe a quote-unquote slower, if that exists, version of the Warriors. And then he locked in the Cabrakan. It feels like they've still gone a comp that, even if it maybe scales a little less towards the early, they want to hold W. That's like all they want to do.
And it's just this right here. Zap's getting gone on. He's already lost beads. Med is popped.
I don't think he gets out of this.
Good
no,
taunt.
the taunt. It does only a little bit, though, Netrioid. Does he have? He had needed the dash at that point to try and get in there. You had to play hyper-aggressive. But you use and get rid of a lot on the side of the Ravens.
Exactly. Double relics used now. Genetics is just going to be holding W, and this is going to be happening.
He got the stun, got the damage, one more
health.
auto zap. I don't know. I'd be sweating. I don't know what's going. Like I'd grip on the mouse and the keyboard, maybe even shaking a little bit, at least personally. But he's made it out each time, and he's still got some health potions, so he's at least getting that back. But no beads, no med, no safety net really for the next however long Genetics wants to continue bullying.
And I think they're just exploiting this Athena. She is not a strong fighting god. She's actually probably one of the worst fighting guardians. She does have reach for a little bit of damage, but she doesn't have any great CC. Taunt is, you know, fine, but it's not, you know, double stun. Also a ton of damage from Cabrakan. And then, you know, Zap has no dash, so if he does get stunned, Net gets on top of him very, very quickly. And they're just really exploiting this Athena right now. Zap's lost beads. We have no med on the Athena. She's getting poked out right now. This is kind of what the matchup is going to look like. Maybe they get bailed out with a gank, but for now and for until probably level 5 at least, it's going to be a lot of bullying over here.
Yeah, the Warriors maybe happy Zap went back to the Olorun. Scream's on this side of the map, not level 5 just yet, and won't hit it off of that shield buff, so maybe the hope of having some, even just a little bit of assistance from the jungler, at least right now, it's not going to happen. But it is a small victory maybe for the Ravens farm-wise. And that's something that has been out of control. And admittedly, it didn't get out of control in Game 1 or 2 until First Blood. And so maybe looking at it right now is unfair, but the Ravens technically ahead. There's a good taunt from Hurry on net, but it feels like duo pressure. It feels like this is where something's going to happen.
Yeah, I think now we also look at Genetics kind of left to go check out the shield camp, and Net actually took a ton of poke. Net's actually out of pots now, and he's not a sustain character like Olo. Olo's got a good amount of sustain in his 3. Hurry can kind of just walk up here because he's full health, and he's actually having Venenu rotate over here too. The Pele level 5.
Pele was massive early, and the purple secured, but Net has to make it out with his life. Gets under the tower, and that's going to be enough. Genetics is able to zone them out. I can't believe he was able to survive that. Now Pegon is rotating in. What all can he do? He's going to transform into the Pele himself. Taunt is going to be good, but here comes the damage, and there has to be the first blood. There it is. Volcanic lightning from Pegon once again putting the first one on the board for the Warriors.
What is it with the Warriors and just getting out like 1 health, and then the enemy team just overcommits completely, and the Warriors end up getting a kill out of it? That is like the 3rd time in the first 5 minutes of each and every one of these games. Really good peel by Genetics there. He got his the horrific off onto Venenu as he ulted, so that damage was actually just lowered enough that, you know, Net was able to live. Zap beads Balone, he uses his ult and just one shot by Panitom.
Maybe even more potential to continue. No, they don't want it. But 2 kills in the blink of an eye. The first one, a little more long drawn out, right? Build up there. Pegon's rotation, like you said, maybe an overextension and more specifically an overstay from the Ravens. That one was just good old-fashioned, hey, Zap doesn't have beads, let's kill him. And Panitom walks over.
Yeah, I mean, Panitom is also just at that spot. He doesn't even have the full Jotuns, and he just did that much damage. He's now got that kill. And you know, if Panitom gets that ball rolling, he is very, very hard to shut down. He's not a player that, you know, kind of makes risky plays. You think about Pegon. If he gets ahead, he will make those risky plays because he's very confident that he will outplay even if he misplays a little bit. Panitom will just make sure it's nearly 100% that he's going to be making good play, and then he'll just do it and do it really well.
Yeah, Pegon will outplay you because mechanically he can be better. Panitom will outplay you because he knows that he's better and is planning for it. It's going to be interesting to see, though, and more specifically, and I want to know maybe your thoughts on this, especially if Scream takes this up in the air. Good stun from Pegon, and the invis makes sure he walks out of there. It was Pegon I wanted to ask about, because you go for this Morrigan, and it feels like when you don't get the Pele, but now you've got the Morrigan, Pegon's just gonna be playing Pele again. I mean, he's just reprising Game 1. It's just on a much longer cooldown than it was before.
Yeah, I also think, other than, you know, Athena for the rotation, or maybe for some objective threat, this is kind of what we're going to be seeing. It makes it so this Athena pick doesn't feel as good. You don't have that blink onto Venenu in mid. He does still have no ultimate, but he gets enough damage off. Double ult's blown. Venenu uses beads, gets out. Hurry now looking for the counter engage onto Genetics. Ring toss miss, and that's probably a disengage.
Yeah. Small things like that. Just this is what maybe makes the big difference, but maybe more specifically to what you were saying, you know, the Athena for Hurry, in theory, cool, we've got an extra person in any fight we want. In practice, half that time, Pegon's going to be there too.
Exactly, and now it's no longer do we have this 1v1 where whenever it's, you know, getting ganked or maybe you're losing it a little bit, the Athena ult's over. Now it's going to be a 2v2. And if you think about when the Athena's going to land, she gets off maybe 1 ability, 2 abilities, and then a lot of just, you know, 25 auto attacks. Pegon's going to be landing with some CC, and then he's going to transform into a character that will one-shot. Who's going to be kind of more effective at that point? So it's really kind of on, you know, Hurry. Does he going to want to be making these plays, or how is he going to be making this Athena ult actually work and have a lot of value? I'm curious to see, you know, kind of how he's going to be using this, because a lot of the time is just going to be matched by Pegon.
And that's going to be a struggle, which is maybe just the right way to describe this set so far for the Ravens in this game. Not setting a different stride, though, again, worth noting, Asat in a little bit of trouble. Has to fall back. Ravens, despite being down 0-2, technically have the farm lead. It's only a few hundred gold, but it is a lead nonetheless, which, given the last 2 games, even a few hundred gold feels like a miracle. In comparison, Sot has the towers, going to be fine. Panitom's over here. Blue buff won't be back for a little while, so a lot of pressure from the Ravens on right. Nothing to show for it. Zap, maybe in a different scenario, beads early there. Genetics, unable to get the walls, unable to get the stun thanks to the Sanctified Fields. And Zap gets to walk away.
Now, not the easiest matchup for Olorun to play into Cabrakan, but there you see it. If Cabrakan walks into that Sanctified Fields, he's going to be getting interrupted out of every single ability, and he's going to be airborne for 10 minutes. So it is kind of a 50-50 matchup where if Olo doesn't have ult, this is such a free target for the Cabrakan, for the entire Warriors team. But if that ult is up, it's something they have to play around. Now the ult is down. Cabrakan ult is still available.
Knock up. It's good. Damage. It's there. And all you need is a little bit more. Netrioid knocks on the kill to Zap. That's 3 up for the Warriors. Screams rotated over, but so have the Warriors. Pegon's here, and the damage is looking good. Knockups are clean. You need a couple autos. Panitom finds what you need. And now it's just a question of what can you do afterward. Honestly, with this amount of numbers, can the Warriors go for a Fury, or do they want to play it safe? Looks like safe is going to be the option.
And that is a thing that the Warriors also do really well. You saw Netrioid kind of reset and backed up and didn't allow himself to get gone on when he was the weakest character on the Warriors. And then they just kind of baited the Ravens forward to take this 3v4. That's not a winning fight for the Ravens, but with how the Warriors kind of baited themselves, they baited Genetics a little bit, who's very, very tanky at this point. He has that full Thieves, and he has the Cabrakan passive, along with, the protection from Cabrakan too. They baited him. And instead of being able to, kill Netrioid, they try to go on Genetics. They don't have the damage for that. And then you see Pegon rotating in, you see Panitom rotating in, and then that's just 2 more kills that the Ravens just give up because of how the Warriors just end up playing that end of that fight.
And it just works, unfortunately for them, so wonderfully for the Warriors. And now we're starting to see gold leads shifting almost 1,000. It's kind of hovering just under for the Warriors.
Kind of small for a 4-0 lead.
Yeah.
And Solo's kind of winning in solo lane, which is the one place you kind of thought they'd have a lead. Just kind of seems like Duo's just out farming, even though Zap 0-2, Hurry 0-1. They have a level lead on both of them. A lot of shield camps must be going to Zap. A lot of pressure from that Olo pick, I guess.
And really what you're saying is we need more pressure from Panitom over on left.
More Pegon
if the Warriors want to get that. Yeah, get over here. Get something done. Shield buff, you had mentioned it just a second ago. Started up by the Ravens. Seems like that's not going to be an issue because spotted out in the jungle, Scream and Vin. They're going to find Panitom up in the sky. And the Susano into the waiting arms of the Pele, but has the disengage. Are they going to dive for it? He's relatively low. They might turn instead onto Genetics, who's now surrounded by 3. Needs a massive stun. Knockup's going to be good. Beads used by Vin. Taunt great from Hurry. Puts a kill onto the board for the Ravens. Zapping a little bit of trouble. Pegon's rotated in. Sanctified Fields does exactly what you need it to. And finally, the Ravens are starting to show some fang in this set. Bite back at the Warriors and even go for an early Fury.
Yeah, the winning fight into the Gold Fury. Huge swing now for the Ravens. They actually have a lead. And I was worried for a second. I thought they were going to get out. The Warriors were going to get out without losing anyone. Panitom played that disengage perfectly, where he ate the Pele out first before using his dash. So the Pele actually couldn't gap close onto him. Really well played. Unfortunately, Cabrakan, his one weakness, he's very hard to get out of a sticky situation. Yeah. He tries to walk out. He gets CC'd a lot, takes a lot of abilities. Zap actually looking to get gone on by Panitom. His ult is down. Panitom a lot of damage up. No ult available, but just enough damage.
Now Scream's here. Going to take him up to the sky. That should be enough on its own. And it will be. Landing kill. So 1 for 1. Zap for Panitom. And Panitom was 3 and 0. Zap was 1 and 3. I guess 1 and 2. So now one's 3 and 1. The other one's 1 and 3. And so a bigger kill for Scream than it is for Panitom.
Yeah, big shutdown. Scream's actually level 12 now. Beads or Blink is now the question for Scream. Does he want that extra engage or the, the CC immunity from Beads, the little extra safety? He does go Beads. Now, the Blink engage is Haddix. So it's a single target CC is kind of their only real engage right now until, maybe Hurry goes for that Blink also on Athena, which is, some Athenas like to go the Blink because they like the instant engage. Some prefer to just dash taunt. But, dash taunting into a lot of this Oni Warriors damage. There's not a ton of frontline damage for this Oni Warriors comp, so I don't even think he needs the beats. He might opt for something like Horrific to kind of reduce that damage that the Warriors have across their comp. Ravens, though, they're back in this game. They got a nice little almost 1K lead now.
And that's despite being down 2 kills still. Showcases, I think, the tenacity and at least what they're trying to hold on to here. Beacon has spawned in. This is the first time we've gotten to a 12-minute Beacon where there hasn't been an insane amount of fighting going on, or one-sided, at least in the nature. And so that's going to be controlled right now by the Warriors. They're going to not only maintain that one, but pick it up for themselves. Ravens were getting aggressive onto Netrioid and left. Hurry even uses the ult, but unable to find the pressure. Still force him to fall back to base, and opens up this tier 1.
I mean, another good macro play by the Ravens. We don't really see a ton of it from the Warriors, and I think it's kind of a comp-dependent thing where they don't really look for towers a lot. But already, 12 minutes into the game, I mean, I guess 12 minutes isn't like it's that early into the game, but 12 minutes into the game, they group for that tier 1 tower and left, and Zap and Hurry end up taking it down. I was kind of thinking they were going to dive that with, you know, Hurry ulting Zap. Zap was going to be walking under the tower, but maybe they're worried about Pegon, Athena ulting over to kind of peel out the Cern, and then they don't think they win that 2v2. So, you know, a little bit more defensive, but now setting up for the shield buff.
Now, do you think... I guess it depends on what Hurry tries to do here. It's just a small taunt. So that does mean I can ask this. Do you think that Scream has just continued to forget the recipe, or is he just opting out of free stats? Well, and honestly, it doesn't seem like it's going too rough for him. He takes Panitom up to the air. Vin gets the kill, but that's an easy one for him. Now, Pegon, what can he do? You've got the sash. You've got some damage. You manage to turn one of these around, and Pegon is going to get away with that. No way does Scream not come in. Morrigan de-transforms. You've got a little bit Netrioid on one side, and that's going to be a taunt from Hurry onto Genetic. Sanctified Fields get dropped. Damage is there, and Zap picks up a kill onto the support for the Warriors. So 2 for 1, Vin for Panitom and Genetics. And maybe Netrioid taunted into Zap's waiting arms. Double kill for the new Hunter on the Ravens.
Wow, what an overall great map play by the Ravens again. It was just 3-5, and it's now 6-6. The Ravens have about a 1,500 almost 2K gold lead right now. With this gold actually coming up, Solo teleports over. So now they don't have that teleport up. Now it looks like they either have to contest this gold fury with Solo, or they're going to be down that TP. And it looks like Haddix has not opted for the TP at all, so there'll just be no TPs for this next gold fury until, you know, Solos comes back up in about a minute and 50 or 150 seconds.
And Haddix actually gets stuck to by Panitom here. Doesn't seem like it might have been worthwhile for Panitom, actually. Ends up taking more poke than he deals throughout all of that. And really, it's just the way, and specifically, I guess, playing in the wave for Haddix, right? Having that heal available to you when otherwise Panitom maybe has some more permanent damage.
Yeah, that, and I think if we take a look at Haddix's build right now, that Sekhmet Scepter, we have not seen a ton of Sekhmets.
True.
I think that item is actually in a really, really good spot. Provides a lot of damage, a lot of survivability, and that cooldown kind of reset and repetitiveness. It's a very, very good item. The only weakness it has is it gives no protections in the early game, so it's a little risky, but now he's got that full physical defense item, full magical defense item. He's also got this Sekhmet. This Horus is going to be fully cooldowned out, spamming abilities. I think they really want to get, you know, Haddix involved in these fights right now. He's going to be doing a lot of damage and just having a ton of utility.
Well, we'd said it was do or die for the Ravens. They have opted in for do, at least for the early portions of this game, first 15.5. They're up 2K. They are losing out right now on a Pyromancer. They're looking for a kill elsewhere. Panitom up into the sky, falling into the waiting arms of 3. Goes for the knock-up. Damage is there, but they need a little bit more to try and turn this around. Panitom's still alive. Warriors resurge, but cannot chase down Haddix's ult. They still get the Pyro. There's a small win for them. Admittedly, cuts the lead in half. Now it's a re-engage from the Ravens. Taunt onto Genetics. SoloOrTroll are here. Panitom backed isn't going to be available for this, so it's just Genetics. Knockup's good. CC is there, and just like you said earlier, it's a sticky situation. And now Pegon finds himself in a similar one. It should not have been more than the 1 kill, but the mid laner for the Warriors off the board, and the Ravens retake their lead.
The Ravens are really starting to play their comp perfectly. They've got this really good, you know, chase down, a lot of CC that is just, you know, it's more single target CC, but it's like shredding protections, it's pulling the enemy back into you, and it's locking that person down for a very long time, and just resulting in that person dying. And then they're also grouping up for, like, you know, the Horus healing, Naja's being able to help self-heal, Venenu's getting a lot of healing across too. This Ravens comp is really starting to come together, and we can kind of tell what they are aiming for with this type of comp.
Oni Fury pulled. And the Ravens have no contest from the Warriors over here. So it's taking a little bit, but they're going to pick this one up no problem. The question is, I see heavy Warrior presence on the right side of the map. Do you go for the fire knowing they're all over on left? I guess with Haddix's ult, it doesn't necessarily give you that security anymore. And so instead, it's just some coverage, trying to hope for the best. Maybe a beacon is on that list.
And you know, Genetics level 12, he is not in a very strong spot. Actually, Fire Giant pulled, and there's nobody on the right side of the map here. He's already down to half, and Zap, that's a Pegon blowing the Olorun ult.
You would think Scream maybe
Just
could have
free.
spotted it. Haddix now sees it. Fire Giant goes down. It's too late. And so a great little call. I honestly didn't think they had the opportunity to do it, but they just caught that one lapse of vision, that one lapse of window that allowed them to walk in and get a Fire Giant. Now we're talking 17 minutes like game 2. And they're going to siege at least the tier 1 on right. Scream goes in for Sot. Takes him up into the air and is going to come down. No Olorun for this fight just yet. Hurry gets burned down. That might be a huge win for the Warriors, especially with Zap coming in late. Sot looking for a massive stun, unable to find it. Volcanic Lightning separates it, and now Sanctified Fields create a massive set of fields to make sure that it's hard for the Warriors to continue their engage. Doesn't stop them, though. Sot's low. They've got Fire Giant in terms of sustain. And without Hurry, the Ravens are going to give up this tier 2 on right, and a great play by the Warriors. They keep surging forward.
Saab might look to upgrade his TP or actually TP in. This right Phoenix is going to be starting to get sieged.
Well, as the Warriors start to siege this, we can finally jump in, listen in to how they're going to try and take it.
Horus, one. I have nothing. Sure, we should get out.
Oh my god, I can't TP.
We should group it.
Look at Nation.
Stun Olorun.
Then, oh.
That's fine, that's unlucky. Go get beacon if you can.
Bro.
That's
This
so
game
fucking
actually
bullshit, man. Yeah, it's fine. We're trying to get beacon.
You can see things don't go well for them. Lose 3 on the siege. You keep Pegon, you keep Sot. But otherwise, Inbound just falls apart right around the Phoenix. Maybe a little too far for them, considering how the game's been back and forth up to pretty much that moment.
Yeah, and it's kind of a crazy fight that the Ravens actually end up winning that one. They were a lot lower in relics, a lot lower in ults, but I think the Warriors just stepped too far forward. They didn't have that, true tank. Right now, we take a look at Genetics' build. He just finished that Spirit's Robe. He's not the type of, god, especially at this point in the game, that can just kind of walk into that Phoenix and just eat all that damage. He just died way too quickly. Net also uses the beads, still ends up dying. We have Panitom also dying. 3 Fire Giants down. And now the Ravens also grouping for this Pyro. They have the gold lead right now, even though they didn't get that Fire Giant. That was a sneak by the Warriors.
They maintain the right side Phoenix. They might have lost 2 towers, but they might get a little bit more. Pyromancer. They're not going to commit for the kill. Sot's rotated in as well, and I guess they don't want everything that can come out their way. Bede's not up for Zap. Throws out the Sanctified Fields, uses the Aegis. Now the damage is good onto Genetics, and they're going to pick that one up no problem. Rest of the Warriors are here. It's 4v4, no Scream for the moment. Pegon and the rest of the crew need to go big, but Pegon takes too much damage. Vin goes massive in this one. He's only 2-2 and 8, but that is a massive kill for him, and now Haddix leads forward. He's going to bring Zap and Vin with him. They have the damage. They have the lockdown. Sot is who they're looking at. It doesn't seem like they're going to get too much. Say that, but they got 2 kills, and they've got pressure in mid. It's everything that they would want for the Ravens to bounce back.
And that was actually a 5v4 we saw for the Warriors. They had the advantage there, and they looked for that fight. Unfortunately, Sanctified Fields was dropped. Genetics gets 1 shot before he can even get his ult off. And Scream doesn't even show up to that fight. Scream is finally showing up. He looks for the sash on the Solo. Solo's getting not really burned at all.
Yeah, doesn't take too much damage. Unfortunately, the tier 2 does. Now they're going to get aggressive. Great walls from Genetics. Lock in Zap. They need more damage, though. Finally, kill him off, and that one goes over to Sot. They continue their aggression. Scream looking for lockdown. They find what they need from Vin, specifically onto Netrioid. Now the chase is on. Dazzling Offense from Sot tries to stun people out, unable to find it. No ults available. And for Pegon, it's just a few seconds away. Could have been a difference maker. And it ends up being carry for carry. Admittedly, right now, Zap, a level up, 6-4 and 4. Maybe worth a little more than Netrioid.
Yeah, for sure. And also, Net dashed in there towards the end of that fight. I think he got the memo that they were taking that fight, all in. Unfortunately, the rest of his team kind of leaves in there, backs up. Netrioid ends up going down. But again, Zap opting for the mantle again. So this Olo is playing more for that survivability and less for that, he's the one that's going to be carrying these fights. And I think if you look at this Ravens comp, you see Zap's kind of just bait. Kind of what he's been a lot of his later career. He's just looking to be that bait. Look at this juicy Olorun free kill. in reality, that Sanctified Fields, that mantle is going to make them very, very hard to take down.
We'll see. I mean, this is a great, great look for the Ravens. After the first 2 games, not only in the lead kills-wise, which is a first, in the lead gold-wise, which is a first, and objective-wise, despite the Fire Giant being taken away from you, you still got the control on the map. And so it's just going to be the setup for them. We've got to the point where we're getting last items online, level 20 for SOT, but more importantly for Scream, who is closing in on, presumably, the gold you need to upgrade that. Feels like power spikes right now, admittedly for both teams, but the Ravens are looking great.
100%. Power spikes are the biggest point before this Fire Giant Siege right now. We got to look at the power spikes. Genetics finally finishes his starter at 22 minutes into the game. This Cabrakan's not having a great game so far. The good thing is, now he's going to be even more tanky, and he may be able to get a little bit more, CC off and be able to do more in these fights instead of just kind of getting one shot. And then we look at the other level 20s. We've got level 20 on Scream, but he hasn't upgraded. Level 20 on Venenu hasn't upgraded. So I think a lot of this point right now, just kind of posturing for Fire Giant control and just farming to get that 20.
Well, Fire Giant, this time around a lot more interesting. It's not just, hey, can the Warriors sneak in, slip in through the vision. You can see ward coverage, actually pretty decent. And that's something, you know what? I've been talking about things that have changed. Fire Giant, the geometry around it, right? Like the walls, we've talked about it, but like ward coverage for the FG pit is so much harder now than it has been in the past, years.
There's so many, nooks and crannies that you kind of have to get wards in that if you aren't careful, somebody can kind of sneak through a lot of these areas and get to this Fire Giant pit. That little wall also behind Fire is a little less scary now. There's not that giant wall lining the backside. It's just this little tiny wall that you can pretty easily, just take a little peek behind and see if it's there. Ravens pulling this Fire Giant.
They're going to pull it in. This is a good time as the Warriors try to figure out how to retaliate, to listen in on the Ravens and see what they're going to do.
They got it. Warriors on the left side.
Of course they did.
We can still fight here.
Big Tom.
Warriors on the left side.
Cup.
I have a ring toss.
I can hold this in here. I'm in.
I'm in. Go Cern. I find the Cern. On me.
I'm with you, Van.
They're ulting me.
One.
Mori Aegis. Mori beats Aegis.
Oh my god.
Oh, they double Susano.
Farm by Susano.
Yeah, double Susano this.
That's crazy.
Haddix at this point just trying to run away for his life. Things go so well. Big taunt there. You're on Kern. You got his beads. You got his Aegis. And then Vin it's the one call, and that's where it shifts. They're all in on me, and then from that moment it's downhill. And now we're looking at it. 4 gone. The Warriors with Fire Giant on 4. They don't have Netrioid, so it's going to take a little while to push these down. And so I guess the question comes to you. 15 seconds before Hurry, 20 seconds for others. We're not talking Titan right now.
I don't think we're calling Titan. They just don't have the damage for real Titan, like true damage. Mori's not a god that really destroys the Titan like other mages maybe would.
Yeah.
Like Anubis there, maybe that's something that we're talking about a different story. Zeus, other big mages.
Just go in, drop ult, and do what you can.
Exactly. Mori's not really in that same, grouping as a lot of Titan damage, but kind of an insane fight. The Ravens kind of pulled that Fire Giant, 5 strong on it. Panitom wasn't even on that side of the map. They lost the Fire Giant. They used a lot of ults to try to secure it also, and then they tried to take the fight after. Really, really huge relics by Net and by Pegon. They lived way longer than they should have, and they absorbed a lot of damage. And then Panitom comes back. Panitom hits like a 3-man pull into like a 4-man ultimate and just wipes everybody else off the map.
And that's, the false sense of security was Pegon's not here, or Panitom's not here. We're like, let's go in, we can fight this. And it is that turnaround. All of a sudden, you just have the Susano. And we were talking about the scaling of Susano in Game 1 for Scream. Things just got out of hand. Now the Warriors have gotten to showcase why we were mentioning some of that. 5-3 and 5 for Panitom. Has the Serrated Edge now finished, has his dagger finished. Both relics. And he managed to maintain his bead. So you get the Phoenix. You still have Fire Giant for about a minute and a half. But I guess the question really not just is over the next minute and a half, what can you do? You've got the Titans over on left, so maybe you were talking about the tier 2 over there, but where do the Warriors start to go? Because now they finally have a lead. They've got 5,000 gold in their pocket, and it's the first time that they've really gotten to get this game.
Yeah, I think the Warriors kind of want to play this map as open as they possibly can. Their globals don't really match the Ravens Athena, it's a bit more instant than Pegon's is, even if Pegon can transform. And then they have the Horus. but they have a lot of survivability, a lot of ways to get out of these fights, and the Warriors also have the Amaterasu for movement speed. So I want them to play this fight a lot more open, kind of just play through mid, 1 or 2 people through mid, and then have the other people say through left. This is fine too, because they actually threaten this. Because they have a poly on the Morrigan. Just having a poly on one of your mages makes it so you threaten this, and there's somebody has to match over here. They don't even need the wave.
And it's the perfect distraction, I guess. Titan is caught up with the Warriors. Netrioid, Genetics work together, knock down the tier 2 and left. So you've got 2 pressuring right Phoenix in SOT and Pegon. 3 pressuring left Phoenix plus Titan from the rest of the Warriors. Titan's going to walk in, start getting some DPS. Taunt onto Genetics from Hurry. But it doesn't seem like the Warriors are stepping in with their Titan. So it's going to get driven back. A little bit of poke here, but they might find a kill elsewhere. Vin is going to be the main target. Dash is good. He uses the Volcanic Lightning. Transformation from Pegon. You need a little bit of help. The Aegis does a lot, but he still goes down. It buys some time, though. Can they kill off Vin? It's massive, and it's necessary here for SoloOrTroll. They lose him. They lose their mid laner. And of course, now up in the air, they're going to be able to get it, but they've gotten so much else done. Panitom's looped around. They're on the Titan right now. They got the left side Phoenix. They got what they needed. Genetics, Netrioid, and Panitom making sure that despite a good showing from the Ravens, it is a 3-game set. The Warriors starting to start things off the way they did in Phase 1.
The Warriors, I mean, another really good just macro play. They baited out the right side very, very well, and then they took the fight hard and left. The Ravens overcommitted to that right Phoenix, and then, you know, the Warriors just kind of ran through that left Phoenix, ran through that Titan, just like that, the game was over.
I thought, okay, left Phoenix. Like, I saw you point up, and I'm like, all right, they're going to get the left Phoenix, you know, like, we'll cover that when they back away, and much like I thought with that mid Phoenix in, what was that, Game 1, Game 2, where I'm just like, okay, they're going to get the Phoenix and back away. I obviously am not on the level of shot-calling decision-making that the Warriors are, because they recognize their scenarios, and they just blitz it. I mean, they just run straight past and don't have to worry about it. And like you said, it's because there's 3 over on right. You don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, and I think we have to highlight Genetic shot calling at this point. Maybe this is the change why they, you know, went from Jake to Genetics for this kind of late-game shot calling, which, you know, Genetics kind of became known for. I mean, 3 games, some really, really good macro shot calling by the Warriors, so gotta highlight that.
Especially when you go to that last game, I mean, you know, not only back and forth, but admittedly Ravens skewed until that Fire Giant fight. Then suddenly we're talking Warriors again, but for 20 some odd minutes it was, okay, the Ravens, wow, they're looking way better this time around. Unfortunately for them, better doesn't get it done this time. It's a 3-0. It's the Warriors getting another win, closing out the first best of 5 of a very long phase for them. That's going to do it from myself. From Inbound, throw it over to the desk to take it away.
That's right. It was a great look for the Ravens to start out game number 3, but it just wasn't quite enough. I think the shout there that Gora points out is probably what I would agree is the turning point for the Ravens there, Charlie, was the fight at the Fire Giant.
Oh, yeah.
Started out great for the Ravens, but then they didn't secure the Fire Giant. Then they just kind of got blitzed during the jungle. You hear it during the comms, and he was saying, all in on me, all in on me. They're all diving me right now. And then he went down. They all regrouped to help him out, even though he dies. The problem is they didn't keep eyes on Panitom, who's able to loop back in, find a double pull, a 3-man Typhoon, just dump his entire kit of damage into the Highland Ravens and the Oni Warriors. Again, they make a call of, well, I guess we can just kind of end the game because, look, there's 3 people over on the right-hand side of the map fighting our 2 guys. We're just going to walk in and end.
I mean, that was my favorite part of the listen-in, was the fight was going so well for the Ravens. They used so many ultimates to actually attempt to confirm that Fire Giant. They don't even get it. And then it's just, you know, let's go attack. They're calling targets. And then Hurriwind just watches a 3-man Typhoon, 4-man Typhoon. He goes, that's crazy. And like the rest, just Haddix has to get out at that point. The fight is completely over. And that just shows exactly how those wraparound plays can happen, because all things considered, it looked like a great fight. Panitom wasn't there. He had to make a late rotation in, but if you give Panitom one chance to make a game-saving play, and he is most certainly going to do so. Let's talk about the Phoenix Siege, though. It didn't seem like the Oni Warriors really had a chance at pulling that left side bird, but then you see Hurriwind ult away, and they immediately realize their situation. Hey, we have 2 members of our team on the left, we have 3 members over on right. It was even until Hurriwind left. Now we go forward, we get a pick. Yeah. Why don't we just 3v1 with the Titan? It's not like you can body block Cernunnos autos. Those glaive auto attacks were absolutely shredding. And me and you were watching that, and I'm like, they're throwing, because you're letting your Titan get absolutely shredded by an ADC to go get some picks over on right lane. Who cares about that Phoenix at that point? The Oni Warriors, they play their strengths well, they make calls, and they stick to them.
And that play right there was the highlight of the, oh, that's a 3-man Typhoon.
Yep.
That's crazy that Panitom just, weaseled his way into our front line like that and was able to get a big ultimate like that. The Oni Warriors, a strong start to get things going. I think it was 3-4-0 for the Oni Warriors. The Highland Ravens, though, able to answer back, keep the mid game much closer, even take the lead for themselves. But then it all started to fall apart right after that Fire Giant siege. It gets stolen away by the Oni Warriors. The Warriors then win the fight, get that left side Phoenix, and then make that decision to say, you know what, we're not going to try and go over and bail out our teammates on the right. It's 2 versus now 3 over there. They're distracting for as long as possible, and that was a very elongated fight on the right-hand side of the map. And then the Oni Warriors able to walk in. There was a moment where Panitom was debating, maybe I go over there and help out. Then he gets a call back from his team, says, let's push down this Titan. We end game 3. And for our first best of 5 of the season, ends with a 3-0 for the Oni Warriors.
I mean, nothing better, right? That's as swift and as decisive as a victory as you could get. I think that we did see some goodness from the Ravens there in that last set. It took them a while to really, number one, adapt to the picks and bans, which was my biggest concern with this squad. But it wasn't all bad. And I think if you're not a new team, but you have a new duo lane, if you're looking for positives, there were some things in this game in particular I'd probably VOD review, especially around that Fire Giant.
Yeah, let's see what changes the Ravens do make as the season continues to go on, because it's only day number 1. But talking about the Oni Warriors and one of the players who was able to make some strong plays to that one, we've got Netrioid the Hunter standing by for a pregame or postgame interview.
That's right. I've got Netrioid standing by. And the first thing I got to ask, especially at the very end there, the 3-2 split, but not the standard 3-2 split. You got 2 way over and right. When did you know was the right moment to go in and that you could win the game?
So it was kind of weird, right? Of course, but as soon as we saw Athena ulting over on solo side to help them dive Pegon and SOT, we're like, oh, this Olorun is like back himself. So he has to use beats on the Cabrakan stun because I'm gonna ult him, and then he has to use Aegis because of the damage, and then Panic just on the left, he's just gonna finish him off, and then that's just basically it.
Easy from that point forward, right? You're just like, well, the Titan's right there, might as well kill it. I want to rewind it even further though, because we had been listening in on the Ravens at the time. And that Fire Giant fight seems like it's going well for them. And then you guys pick up the Fire Giant. They get a massive taunt. It's like, okay, this is it. They actually dove you really hard. And then everything fell apart for them. So what changed that fight around despite the fact that it was going so well, I guess, for the other side at first?
So basically, the only person that they could kill was me in the whole game. So I was basically the bait. And as soon as I force either taunt or something, my team can just recast. But the key moment, in my opinion, was Pegon, because he was pretty confident on that fight, because I died, of course, and we got a fire. And then the HP bars were going down from our team, and I think Genetics was like, oh, this is bad, just split up and maybe try to do some time, because they can run it up mid and maybe end. But I think Pegon got a huge flank, and he said, no, fight. Like, if you hear our comms, he's like, fight. And then we see like a one Susano ult from Pani, and then another Susano ult from like the other side, and there's just like 2 cycles. It was really hard. But I will say, like, for example, in solo side, we were like SOT backed, and we almost lost the game because of the bug. Like SOT couldn't TP back on the Phoenix and left, so we were like, we're gonna bait the fight, just TP behind him, and then he's like, oh guys, I cannot TP. There's a bug, I cannot TP.
Sometimes, and you know what? You won anyway, right? So you were able to overcome the adversity. I guess the last question, really, you come in 3-0, you just won the kickoff, so things just feel like they have been going incredibly well for the Warriors. Is this are you anticipating something like Phase 1, or are you guys just taking it a set at a time, trying to do your best?
I think you always want to do better, of course. You never want to do the same exactly thing you did months ago. So yeah, we're looking to be better, of course, and right now we have been practicing discipline, our team in scrims. Even like I will shout out to Pegon and SOT, because they are like sometimes a little bit fun players, but I understand it. But they have been putting a lot of work as well when it comes to discipline, and we have, it's showing, right? Like, we are getting these leads. We're not trying to like throw them away. So. Yeah.
And you know what? With the way you guys played in Phase 1, where it was hyper-aggressive and winning, and now that there's some discipline added into that, it's becoming a very scary team, I can imagine, for everybody else. And as we just saw, it should be. Congratulations, man, on the win. Thank you for your time. We'll go back to the desk.
I was looking to do maybe a little bit better than previous, which is really hard for the Oni Warriors to do, by the way, because they won 15 sets in a row before they finally go down at the very last. I think the only way that they can do better is to go undefeated all the way through until they win the World Championships, which would be an insane run for them to have.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, they could lose almost every set, but as long as they get to Worlds and then win it, it would still be better.
Yeah.
A ring's a ring.
Yeah, a ring is a ring. As long as you can find a ring, that's the win at the end of the day for them. We can take a look at the schedule for the remainder of our day. and a look ahead to the rest of the weekend. Warriors went out 3-0 against the Ravens to start out our Friday. We've still got one more best of 5 between the Jade Dragons and Atlantis Leviathans. That'll be our second set and our only other set for today, but we still have 2 more sets every single day for the rest of the weekend. Tune in on Saturday and Sunday. We'll have the Warriors back once more. Same with the Ravens. Warriors will be kicking things off tomorrow on Saturday. Ravens will be starting it out on Sunday. It's all about the Jade Dragons and the Leviathans for our next match up. We'll actually be seeing a little bit of a grudge match, Charlie. It has been literal years since we have seen PBM and Panicat on separate teams. I think looking back, as far as I can remember, was like very early stages of Season 4 before those 2 players jumped onto E United together was the last time that these guys were against each other.
It's difficult to even think about that because it's been such a long time, but you're right. It is going to be a bit of a grudge match. I'm excited for it because, number one, those guys are very loud in the way that they speak to each other. I expect some light trash talk on Twitter. I've already seen a couple, and that always makes me laugh. And it's going to be a good set. I mean, if this set was any indication, it can only get better from here.
It's going to be a great second set, and you're not going to want to miss out at it at all, so make sure that you are sticking by. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have the Dragons and Leviathans up next.